Hey, we got the hard candy episode. Sit back, enjoy some of that hard candy. I am here with Chris Miggs. Chris, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm not enjoying hard candy, but I am enjoying um, Girl Scout s'mores cookies.
Nice.
Oh,
My Girl Scout cookies arrived
okay.
this week, and I can actually relate this to the podcast because I bought them from the daughter of a friend of mine from law school who went to see The Crows with me at one point when we were in law school together. I think we went to the Bowery Ballroom show together, the 2008 one.
Oh,
So yes, that's what I'll be enjoying. That's the sweets that'll take me back. Not that, although not that far back. They've only had those cookies for like 3 or 4 years. I think like 5 years. They've had the Girl Scout cookies, the s'mores ones, but they're delicious. So that's my high. I recommend this album, and I also recommend those Girl Scout cookies. That's to all my listeners.
it,
The other thing I'll say, since we last talked, Eric, there are rumors that we all knew the band was going on tour this summer, but the rumor is that they'll be going on tour with the Gaslight Anthem, which would be literally my first and second favorite bands going on tour together.
oh,
I'm excited, I'm jacked, but I'm also just excited to talk about Hard Candy and maybe some songs off this album that they haven't played on tour that maybe they should get on and do that this summer if they go on tour, theoretically.
absolutely. And you know what? Whenever I think of hard candy with this, maybe it's because of the way Adam's lyrics are, but I think of the lemon sour hard candy, right? Because of the mix of the sweet and the sour. Anyway, we'll talk that in a little bit. We also have, since we're doing an album review and a song ranking, we, as usual, have Jeff Harkness. Jeff, welcome back to the podcast.
Always happy to be here, everybody. I'm
We
excited.
need,
Yeah, hard candy.
yeah, we need your history. This was like a one that a lot of people wanted to join because it's, I don't know, in some ways one of their more interesting albums, and certainly maybe a demarcation point of the band as well. We have two listeners of the podcast who said we want to talk about Hard Candy, and I said, okay, let's do this. First, we will say hi to Brent. Brent, welcome to the podcast, and you're coming in from Georgia. Is that correct?
That's right. Thanks so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the podcast, particularly the episode with David Lowery. Man, that was crazy, all the information he provided.
Yeah, that was fun. I definitely would like to talk to some of the other producers. We're still trying for that in the future. So, just since you're first time on the podcast, just answer two questions if you can. One, like, how did you become like a big Counting Crows fan? And then two, what's your earliest memory with Hard Candy, the album, maybe buying it or whatever?
Yeah, so I was in from the beginning. I'm born in 1985, so I was 8 years old when August and Everything After came out, and it was my favorite album. And I have a daughter now that's 8, and I can't imagine her just sitting around listening to an album like August and Everything After. I probably didn't really understand what was going on with a lot of the lyrics, but the first 4 albums of Counting Crows, I was totally in and listened to those 4 albums just incessantly. I remember for the third album, This Desert Life, I had listened to a ton of the songs, live recordings before it came out, and I decided for Hard Candy that I would take a different approach. I just disconnected entirely and just waited until the album came out and listened to it, and I got it pre-ordered, and it showed up like a week late. It was driving me crazy, but it came out in the summer that I was 16 years old, and I think like a lot of things, when something hits you when you're that age, it's kind of the perfect time to really soak it up. Really important album for me.
That's great. Fantastic. And Rob, I don't know, right? Right. You're from England originally, you live in Australia now. I want to call you like Bris Vegas Rob, right? Because you live in Brisbane, Australia now. But Rob, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Same questions for you. When did you become a Crows fan, and earliest memories with Hard Candy?
So those two things align for me. When I was younger, I was very much a little hip hop head. I used to love hip hop music. That was it. There was no such thing as any other music. And I have an amazing friend who I'm still really good friends with called Paul, who we worked together, and he introduced me to Counting Crows. He was like, listen to this band. And that was it. Hook, line and sinker from that moment. So I went out the day he introduced me to Counting Crows pretty much and purchased Hard Candy because that was the album that had been released. That was the one that was there. And I was like, okay, here we are. And that was my sort of pathway to glory, if you like, to all of this beautiful music that I'd missed out on. It really changed how I sort of listened to music, opened my eyes a little bit more, and sort of grew into this love of, other bands, Matchbox 20, Five for Fighting, a lot of other bands that sort of sit in that kind of group. But Hard Candy is my entry to Counting Crows, hence why I wanted to be here.
Great. I love hearing when people enter at other times besides, the original. I always like that, right? We had Zephyr, and didn't he become a fan around somewhere in the Wonderland or something? I have to go back to that. But
something like that, yeah.
yeah. So, okay, fantastic. So we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to go through the official song rankings, etc. But first, let's just a little bit of background on the album. Was released July 7th, 2022. 2002. Sorry, 2002. So, wow, we were almost up to the 25th anniversary of this album, right? If my math suits me correctly, which kind of shocks me. This is kind of definitely it's a demarcation point of the band. And I say that, and I guess Jeff will get into this a little more. I say that for two reasons. One, it's the end of the every 3-year release. And if I did that math correctly, right,
Mm-hmm.
I think they released in 95, right, what was it, 95, 98, 2000, or no, I'm doing
93, 96, 99, 2002. So like a 3-year album cycle, which was kind of roughly the norm for big bands in that era. And then, of course, they don't release another record of originals until 2008.
Yeah, so 6 years. So they doubled. Yeah. This is also the last album where both Matt Malley and Ben Mees were in the band. Right? Ben Mize, sorry, that were in the band. Is this the first one? I know Emmy's thing is kind of up and down, but is this the first one that he's listed in the notes as being an official band member? Right? I think he joined right after Desert Life was recorded, even though he's in those photos and everything. I think this is the first album where he's officially a member. I could be wrong about that.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So then we'll talk about all these. But the other things about the release is, one, it topped out at number 5 in the sales, but it was the first one that did not go platinum. But it still went gold. Topped out at number 5. The songs, I just think this is a demarcation too. I looked at who wrote the songs, and even though there's a lot of tracks right there, we're going to look at 14 tracks today. 9 of the 14 were written just by Adam, if you go by credits. And then the other 5 were kind of interesting, where the only real group one is Richard Manuel's Dead, where 5 of the band members, no Bryson and no Ben, but everybody else gets a songwriting credit there. Hard Candy, Adam, Dan, and Charlie. Miami. So anyway, Charlie comes up in all of them. And Miami is Adam, Emmy, and Charlie. And then Why Should You Come When I Call, Adam and Charlie. So Emmy getting 2 songwriting credits here with Miami, which is kind of funny, right? Because Miami Live, Emmy plays a prominent role in that song. And he also gets songwriting credit for Manuel. And I think that's interesting because I don't think he had a Crow's songwriting credit before this album. So the only other thing I kind of want to say before moving to Jeff is about the hidden tracks, which, of course, there's the Big Yellow Taxi. You can talk a little bit more about that and the history of maybe when Vanessa Carlton was added. I'm not even sure about that, right? Released as a non-Vanessa cut at first, and then a Vanessa cut, and I think then it was listed as a non-hidden track. But then the imports had hidden tracks. 4 White Stallions and You Ain't Going Nowhere, for example, in the UK release. Now I had a fight with one of my Crows friends, Dan, because he didn't realize, because I said I had to go through, because remember, this is like internet shopping. 2002 was not a big of a deal. And I found out somehow that Japan had a 3rd bonus track, which was Start Again, which of course got released later in Underwater Sunshine. But I had to go through like my friend's ex-girlfriend who was living in Japan, and another guy's like, why are you contacting his ex-girlfriend? What are you doing? I'm like, no, I need the Hard Candy extra track. And he's like, no, you're lying, because the Hard Candy, you can go to the UK for the same track. So I had to tell him that Start Again was only available in Japan. See, I'm hurting relationships, etc.
That's the most amazing fight I've ever heard, Eric. That's incredible. That's amazing. And I really feel like it explains our friendship, all of it right there. Because it's also, this was a very hard, difficult period, because it was a bunch of the singles on this record had B-sides that had, but there were like 3, there's like 3 different versions of Richard Manuel is Dead, and they all have different B-sides, and you're trying to get them from the UK. Or this was like this was like the peak of that era, because we all knew and we're all like, how do I get, like, I know I can get this. It's like that period of my life. I feel like I remember before everyone just ripped things and you were like, it'll be on the internet in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
What
You do
and
not need to send $55 to Japan to get one more song.
Yeah, so this girl, God bless her, she went into some store, man, and sent it to me, even though she didn't know me and she had broken up with the guy already. Off her Start Again, that got released in Underwater Sunshine anyway. And I didn't even know what Start Again was. I thought it was a new song by them, not a cover. So, Jeff, let's go to you for any more history that I might have missed, etc.
Sure. All right. So, fourth Counting Crows record. I'm excited to talk about Hard Candy. This is my favorite Counting Crows record. I don't think it's their best record, but it's my personal favorite Counting Crows record, and I'm super excited to talk about it. I remember when I first heard this album, I was working as a music journalist at that time, and so I did review the album and publish a review of it. But at the time, the labels would send us the CDs, and usually we'd get them in advance. But this album, I was so excited. I was such a big Counting Crows fan that I was already all over LimeWire and had downloaded all of the tracks like separately on LimeWire, but tried to cobble it together. But it was interesting because I didn't hear it in sequential order, and I didn't know, like, okay, you didn't always know if, like, is this actually a song from the album, or sometimes it would be like the wrong thing. So I was so excited when this album came out because I was a huge Counting Crows fan at the time, and to me, especially like, hearing some of those tracks for the first time, like Hard Candy, it was just so exciting that a band that was this far into their career and that I had loved so much was releasing new music that was as good as anything they had ever done. And so I just remember being so excited by this album when it came out because I just loved it. All right. So
did you have to score the album in your review, Jeff?
I don't think we did stars or anything like 4 out of 5, but I did. I said it was the band's fourth home run in a row because I was a fan, but yeah, I gave it definitely a very positive review and said that, basically this was a band that was always divisive, but Duritz was the real deal and they had delivered one more time. So. Like the first 3 albums, it was recorded in a house in the Hollywood Hills. There was one key difference, though, that with the first 3 records, they had basically compartmentalized the recording process and touring. So they, took time off. They recorded their second album, and then they took it out on tour. With Hard Candy, they didn't do that. They never stopped touring. So they would take a few weeks off and record. They would go out on the road and, sometimes testing the songs and things like that. And also, the album was recorded in a pretty short period of time for them, only 4 months, which for them was working pretty quickly. And that's, again, not continuously recording. In the summer of 2001 and the fall of 2001, they toured without an album. It was 2 years out from Desert Life. So they're trying out new material. They're playing colleges. And in May that year, they played in Arizona and debuted Richard Manuel is Dead, Goodnight L.A., Black and Blue. Also, they were playing Los Angeles in 1492 on that tour, which didn't show up on this album, but were recorded for this album and showed up on the next album. And they also were doing Going Down to New York Town. Or no, I don't know if they were doing that live, but it was listed as a song that was going to be on the album. And then didn't make it onto the album. It was on the soundtrack. Let's see. And so they started adding these songs in the tour. That tour was the time that I drove 1,000 miles to see them in New Orleans, to see them previewing songs from Hard Candy. And at those 2 shows, they played 8 new songs from the album. So 8 out of the 14 songs were being played. But some of the key tracks, like the title track, Hard Candy, was not played at those shows. And so some of these songs were still new when I heard them. Adam had originally.
If you want us to hear us deep dive on those shows, listen to our first episode with Jeff because we talk a lot. Those are great shows, and we talk a lot about them actually.
So, so much fun. Adam originally had enlisted Eric Valentine. He was the guy who had produced Smash Mouth, and then it didn't really work out the sessions with him. Ethan Johns, the guy who produced Ryan Adams' Gold, which Adam had done Answering Bell on that album, he started to work on it too. That didn't totally pan out, but then they got Steve Lillywhite, and Ethan Johns continued to stay on and work on some stuff. He gets credited for percussion on the track and some things like that. Now, Steve Lillywhite, this is a real superstar producer who's worked with the biggest bands, the Rolling Stones. He had produced one of their albums, Peter Gabriel. Obviously, these are huge influences on Adam. But also, Steve Lillywhite produced the first 2 Psychedelic Furs albums, right? So recall what a big fan that Adam is of that band. He also has worked on all the U2 albums since October, so all the way back, and all the classic Joshua Tree, Octung Baby, all of those albums. I get also like Dave Matthews Band, the Crash album was produced by Lillywhite. So that, I think that kind of sound, that really highly produced, polished, I mean that in a good way, but just pristine, sparkling kind of production that he brings to it. I think that's what Adam really wanted.
While still kind of tied to like a songwritery thing. I think it's you talk about all those Lillywhite records. It's like polished, but like it's sort of trying to retain a certain thread of something, right? Like those, like that. You think about those Dave Matthews records and those U2 records, even though they're very polished records, they're not like polished like a
pop,
like a true pop record, right? Which is like very, and I do think we'll talk a lot more about Hard Candy, but I think that kind of comes through on the record and is kind of an interesting pull in terms of what he brings to that record.
Yeah. And Adam said that he was deliberately trying to write pop songs on this album, shorter pieces than he had on Desert Life. He said perfect pop gems, and he was really kind of obsessed with doing that. He also said that Adam said that memory was the underlying sort of theme of the album. And although he did not write like to sit down and say, I'm going to write a theme song, that was kind of the underlying theme and what was in the back of his mind as he was writing the album.
And Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2 things about that when you're talking about these perfectly crafted pop songs, because he's kind of said this again, but I had heard it before, although I didn't know it's because he met him, that some of his influence was the Beatles on this one, right? They were specifically thinking, partly because he ran into McCartney, sorry, somewhere. And then, but he was already kind of thinking about that. And then he met him at a party, right? And was talking to him. I only heard that part recently, but I had heard before that he was somewhat Beatles influence. And I think a couple of these songs have that influence. And I also, correct me if I'm wrong, I know Hard Candy, the song has something, obviously it has to do with Sweet Memories and stuff like that. But I believe he named the album that because he wanted the songs to be like, right, perfected. I don't know, right? That what you're saying about the perfectly crafted sweet pop kind of thing had something to do with the name Hard Candy influence, right? And it says on what does it say on the cover? 13 fantastic flavors or something. Although it was actually 14 with Big Yellow Taxi. So anyway, didn't mean to cut you off, but
that's exactly it. I actually interviewed Dan Vickery on the Hard Candy tour, and he had told me that story too about Paul McCartney and the sort of time that he tells it on the podcast, but at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Paul McCartney was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and Adam got to talk to him a little bit, and just what an inspiration it was that Paul McCartney had written such incredible songs, and sometimes very short songs too, and so that was certainly at the front of his mind. Just a couple more things. They did purportedly record an album's worth of covers while they were doing this, including some of the ones mentioned. And this was kind of the beginnings of their thinking. We're going to do like a Shim Sham show and put it onto record, record a bunch of cool covers, obscure covers, things that we like to do, real loose, and we're going to make a record of covers. I do think that a lot of these, like Start Again and stuff, I think that they were re-recorded for Underwater Sunshine, but there's early sessions. And one of the ones that they kind of hit on that they really liked was Big Yellow Taxi. They're like, oh, this is cool. We can do something with this. And so they gave that song or took it to this guy, Ron Fair, who kind of a super producer. I'm guessing Geffen kind of paired them up. And he had some big hits for like Christina Aguilera, Black Eyed Peas, Mary J. Blige. And he had just produced Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles, And I walk 1,000 miles. And so that was a huge hit. And so they gave it to him. He kind of gave it this, hip hop kind of beat and souped it up a little bit. And they decided they weren't going to, they liked it enough. They wanted to do something with it. They, basically put it as a hidden track on the album, kind of like Kid Things. It was a hidden track. This did not have Vanessa Carlton on it. And then they released the album. As part of the release of the album, famously, they paired with Coca-Cola, did a Coca-Cola commercial, which featured American Girls and the band in a Coca-Cola commercial. That came out and it did help that song do well. The song actually charted and did well, but also all of the discussions at the beginning of the album promotional cycle, everybody asked them about the Coca-Cola commercial, and all the reviewers wrote about it in their reviews of Hard Candy too. So they'd be like, here's, the Counting Crows' new album, and then they just paired with Coca-Cola. So although the idea was to get the song out there to the public in a new way on the new frontier and communicate with the fans, I think ultimately, they didn't get any money for it, and it gave them a lot of, in my opinion, negative publicity. It did sell, less. I would call it, their most ballad-heavy album since August, and also I think that among fans, obviously Present Company excluded, I think it's their most underrated album by the fans, because even on this show, we've had fans who come on and, huge Counting Crows fans, obviously, who love the band so much. And they say, yeah, I kind of, that after Desert Life, that was kind of the end of it for me. And to me, I say to those fans who don't include Hard Candy in your most beloved Crows albums, you need to go back and get into this one, because it's so good. I do think, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, that it was the first of the 4 albums where there's a lot of material where, in my opinion, like they could have left that on a cutting room floor. And we'll be talking about that. It'll be interesting to hear the rankings. But to me, it was the first album that came along where it's like there were, in my opinion, a number of clunkers on this album. And that ultimately was part of the reason I think it doesn't get the props that it deserves. I would say, though, that the good songs and the best songs on this album are as good as anything or better than anything they've ever done. This is them at the height of their powers. I think that they had developed and found themselves and found their sound. And now they're going to get, a Rolling Stones level producer and put out a professional rock and roll record. And to me, it's really the Crows at the height of their powers. I love this record. So let's get it going.
I think part of the problem, I'm very interested. I'm with you, Jeff. Like, I think absolutely. I think I bet all of us would say if you cut 4 or 5 songs from this record, it'd be a better record. I'm very excited to see the rankings and curious, because I bet we would all have very different cuts of this record. It's sort of the like, and I think it's sort of a little bit endemic to this era of music, in that because everything was CD based, CDs were 74 minutes long. There was really nothing that stopped you from being like, okay, well, why are we cutting these 2 songs to make it exactly perfect? Like, we think all these songs should be here. Who cares if the album is 55 minutes long? People can skip them or whatever. And so I think a lot of albums from this era suffer from this. If you want, like, Ryan Adams' Gold would be another great example. That's basically a 74-minute record. And if you slice some songs off that, it's like all killer, no filler. And there's still a lot of great songs in that record. But like, again, I bet we could all argue, if you're a Ryan Adams fan, but we could all argue about like what songs you'd cut from that. And I think there's just a lot of albums like that. Eric, should I do my story of the album right here before we get into the rankings?
Yeah, please.
Because I very specifically remember buying this record. Fall of my sophomore year of college, Ardmore Music on the main line in Haverford, Pennsylvania. It was sitting at the counter. Maybe it was getting promoted. There was a box of them. It was kind of sitting at the counter. I don't even remember what else, because it was mostly like a used CD store. So I'd go in and I'd troll for different stuff. I'd bought a copy of August there like the year before. And I was like, oh, shoot, there's a new Counting Crows album out. I guess despite the Coca-Cola ad, Jeff, this had just sort of gone over my head.
Right.
And I picked it up, and that really is the record. I have a big connection to this record, because this really is the record that took me from being like a fan of the Counting Crows to being like a very, very big fan. Like, by the end of this year, I had bought Across a Wire. I was like diving through various like websites to find live versions of these songs and figure out like, and just kind of really, it's really where I went from being like a fan to being like a deep deep fan. So this is really, I think, a very special record for me. I will say also, it's a couple of interesting things. I first listened to this record when I was 19. I'm 41 now. It is interesting what connected with me at 19 versus 41. I thinking about this is it's been a while since I'd like just sat and really listened to these songs. I also think it's a very, when you really you talk about like the pop sheen on these songs, when you break down some of these songs, they are very strange in a good way a lot of times. But like when you combine the musicality of some of these songs with the sound of the words versus the actual meaning of, we sort of like triangulate all of those. Sometimes, shit, man, these are weird, deep, and interesting songs. And I think that way, Jeff, too, this is a very underrated album in that regard, in terms of the lyricism and the way these things are presented. I think sometimes the songs that don't work is because Adam is trying to do something that doesn't quite get all the way there. We'll get much deeper into that at some of these songs, but yeah. So yeah, this is we're taking you back to Chris's college dorm room in Pennsylvania,
and we'll get right into the song rankings. But I although I mentioned it once, I think earlier in the podcast, or maybe even in the first episode, but I kind of buried the lead in that I picked up now I remember I picked up, unlike August, which I think I picked up later, and I know I did, and Recovering, maybe I picked it up a week after it was released, or the week, I don't remember, but not the day. But Desert, I picked up the day, but this one I picked up the day it was released at the Counting Crows official release party. I forgot about that, right? So it was at a Tower Records in Philadelphia. First, I don't know why Philadelphia, but that's where they did it. And they did a World Cafe 5-song set, which I was not early enough to get into. So they played all acoustic, which was kind of interesting. They played Hard Candy, Mr. Jones, Richard Manuel, Long December, and American Girls, all acoustic. You can find that online.
But this is how dumb and behind I was, Eric. I could have taken the train to that gig.
Yep.
On the main line. If I'd known about that gig, we could have been at that gig together, but I missed it. Idiot.
And I tried to get I was working for such a strict little company for 3 months, and it was, I forget, I had to lie about something. Like I had like an appendix to get taken out, and I left at like 2 p.m. or something, and drove down quickly. And I knew that even if I couldn't get in, that they were going to do a CD signing. So I do have that signed by all band members, including Ben and Matt and Emmy. Emmy was there. But the interesting thing, but Jeff, see, you like this. So the issue, although I guess I lost the original, the issue was later I got the CD with the hidden tracks. And for some reason, I didn't want to keep both copy of it. So I have the original booklet that I got signed, and then the CD itself is the one with the hidden tracks. But I guess that way I lost the original Big Yellow Taxi. Yeah. But without any, but I did get it signed by them, and that's where afterwards I mentioned this before. I saw them. A lot of the band members milling around Tower Records when a lot of the fans left, and I said hi to Bryson and Matt. Adam was very busy looking through the records, and you could tell did not really want to be bothered, so I did not bother him. So,
nice. All right,
cool. But yeah, so let's get into the rankings. 14 songs to rank. These are this is the only one that I'm going to say not official, because I've changed mine so unscientifically, and I was even influenced by Jeff. I think I saw his rankings. It might have messed me up a little bit. So here we go. Oh, so the one interesting thing I do want to say is, I know this sounds a little silly, but it will make sense when we get to it. A lot of the other albums, it's like, oh, these were like, it was in like 3 different, these were kind of the lower, the middle, and the high. This one basically had 6 different demarcations, but very clear demarcations on those 6. Okay, and I think it will make sense when we get to that. Which is interesting. So the one demarcation that's totally by itself, which would be the song that got the lowest, but I'm going to talk about more in a positive way, is Big Yellow Taxi. So Big Yellow Taxi was 14 out of 14 in our little rankings. Everyone put it as their least favorite song, or second or third least, except for me, who had it right in the middle. It was my 8th favorite. And I know we were supposed to judge the Vanessa version, not that. I guess I'll speak first, just because I had it the highest. I like this. I know that maybe people see it as, and especially adding Vanessa, as a little bit trying to be a little pop, but at the time when I heard, I knew that Adam could do a traditional cover of Big Yellow Taxi. That would be really easy for him. And I kind of like the poppy sensibility. Does it need Vanessa? No, but I kind of just, I don't want to say block it out, but I don't pay it any mind. I just like the cover. I think it's kind of original. I think it still is Counting Crows-y, and I think it's a good song. I mean, the live version I know is a little different, and people like that, but I like that as well. So I'm going to go to. Well, I guess we'll go in order. Chris, any comment about Big Yellow Taxi?
Yeah, I had this 12th. I actually, again, I really like the live versions of this a lot better than this recorded version. I've always just found the recorded version, and especially the version with Vanessa Carlton, kind of lays flat for me. It just doesn't get. I don't know. There's something about the production on it that has never quite hit me. Always like always like live version, but it was always strange for me as a very big Counting Crows fan that this was a huge hit. I mean, huge hit.
Yeah,
this was on the radio everywhere, and people would be like, "Oh, okay, Chris, Counting Crows," and I'd be like, "I know, but it's this one again."
Yeah,
and it was such a weird feeling. I do always love this story that in 2003 they were playing a series of shows in December around the holidays at the Warfield in San Francisco, and also I think in a theater in LA too. And apparently Adam was like coming out of a cab, and Vanessa Carlton was getting into one or something, and they bumped into each other, and they're like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And Vanessa Carlton was like, "Yeah, we sing together sometimes," because they had never met. And then she showed up, and they did that song, and also 1,000 Miles on piano together that night. I think it's at the Warfield. It's either the Warfield or in LA. It's definitely December of 2003. Those are really nice versions too, so worth seeking those out. But the actual album version,
I heard him recently say that he wanted to do. I don't know if you're hanging around. He almost wanted to do some extras, some more songs that were more dance-y or hip-hop-y, and it's not. He actually always had a goal of that. I actually like kind of the hip-hop drum in the background. But anyway, let's go to. I'll do it in order of the videos. Let's go to Brent. Brent, your thoughts about Big Yellow Taxi?
Yeah, so the original hidden track on the album, I really liked. Adding Vanessa Carlton to me was the first like big misstep of Counting Crows to me personally, where I really felt like they did something that I hated. And I doubt I'm the first to say this, but the song is about how commercialization or trying to monetize something can kind of take away the beauty. Adam has to understand that that's what he did here, right? At least to some extent, even if you don't fully buy into that. It's just trying to make a hit. I hate it. The fact that she's just added onto it without really being involved in the song at all to me is preposterous. So to me, it's an interesting song. Once you add her in there with her crazy sounds, it's not for me.
All right. So for those of us that bought Hard Candy early, maybe we like listening to the non-Vanessa version. Rob, let's go to you.
Yeah, so the thing with Big Yellow Taxi is it's Counting Crows' biggest hit in the UK, and it's so overplayed. Do you remember when Nickelback released How You Remind Me, and it was everywhere all the time, and you were just like, please stop? That's what happened with this song. And it's not that I hate this song, it's just that I have that vivid memory of, please play another Counting Crows song, because there are so many that are so much better. That's not even close. So this one really sort of like sticks in my throat, so I can't give it any real love because of that. I still like the song. If it's on, I'm like, oh, cool. But it just doesn't fill me with joy anymore the way the rest of the album does.
And Jeff, we'll go to you, but maybe we'll have a Big Yellow Taxi episode sometime. I do think what's interesting, though, Jeff, you like history. I believe this is the last video that the whole band was in, which makes me kind of sad and melancholy in a way as well.
As befitting the other ones, Counting Crows.
Yeah, the other ones either have just Adam, or they don't have, like all the ones for, anyway, some of the newer ones, they just have a video with none of them. But Jeff, go to you.
Yeah. So, and maybe I'm sure we all understand this, but the album was originally released with just the Crows cover. And so for many of us, we spent 6 months with the original song. And I liked it. I think it was a good cover and an interesting cover for them to do. I liked the hip hop thing, and it made a lot of sense. I enjoyed it. And to me, the Vanessa Carlton version, this came out, it was released in like November. They then removed it from the album, took away the hidden track, put the song on there as a bonus track, and it suddenly becomes a different thing. Like others have said, it's, had they done a cover together, I would be very interested to hear it. But having someone karaoke over your song, that's like, your annoying little sister in the car or something like that. Like, it's just a very odd decision to do that. And it was Ron Fair's, work with her that did it. I think that's the issue with it. The other thing is, I've talked about this before, and we'll have to talk about it with Hard Candy. But to me, one of the great things about the Counting Crows is their use of space and how they use space in their songs, and how important parts of their music are the parts where they're not playing or not doing something, or where it's very quiet. And so to have someone come in and intrude in these spaces, like she found a place to insert herself, to me makes it more annoying, because those spaces were all deliberate, and they're very deliberate in their use of space. And so that's the part that it's almost like, Brent's great point about consumerism, and there's sort of almost hypocrisy around, there's a meta sort of hypocrisy to it. In the same way, it's like there's a meta hypocrisy to allowing someone into that space that's so important in your music, So I didn't like that, but I will say, great use of strings, and I did like that, and there's some cool things. I do think the cover itself was fine until Vanessa Carlton's version became the ubiquitous version that we all hear, and here also on Spotify, it's one of their top 5 songs. You hear it in the grocery store all the time, and it annoys me.
And the original cover version is just gone.
It's hard to find.
You can't find it anywhere.
Yeah. It's very hard
you have
to find.
Basically just search for it on YouTube or something.
It's on a children's compilation on Spotify. There's like, kids rock songs, and it's on there, the original version. So you can find it, and it's worth hearing. It's the exact same version as Vanessa Carlton's. There's no difference.
I think that's a really astute point, Jeff. I think the fact, like the way that they use her vocals to sort of cut the space is part of, I think, why I feel like you've explained to me why I've disliked this version for like 20 years, is that it doesn't have the space, and it doesn't breathe, really. It just kind of...
You have somebody hogging up that space, and that's so important. So, I'm really glad that we're all in agreement on this. I wasn't sure that... I thought, maybe this would be controversial. If we were judging the other song, this would have come up much higher for me. But
by the way, I like seeing them on the Coke commercial. I like seeing my heroes on TV, only for a little bit, right? I wish I could see them now on a commercial. But anyway, let's go to the next group. Thank you for your thoughts. So this is what I would call group number 5. There's 4 songs in here. So we were somewhat agreeing to where these were located in the ranking. So song number 13, and Will, is Black and Blue. Now, Chris had this the highest, who had it as number 9. The rest of us had it fairly low in our bottom 5. It looked like myself and Jeff had it the lowest. But let's start with Chris, who generally likes Black and Blue.
Yeah, it's a good song. It's kind of right under... my rankings sort of fit into like a top 8, I kind of felt like, and then sort of a bottom 6. So it's sort of just below what feels like the midpoint of the record to me. I like the song. I think it's very beautiful. I sort of connected to it. I had someone I spent some time with in college. It was like one of their favorite songs, and it's kind of a beautiful song about sort of someone feeling very fragile, and I've always sort of connected to. I think it's a kind of a lovely song. Again, I don't think it's one of their best on the record here. I think it's I think in a record that has a lot of actually really beautiful ballads, it kind of falls to me in sort of the bottom of that group. But I think there's something, I don't know, there's something nice about it. It's a very interesting. There's a lot on this record that's Adam really working through the perspectives of women and himself. And I do think this one, where he's sort of really kind of taking a sort of that more feminine perspective, is kind of lyrically pretty interesting and sort of nice. But yeah,
okay,
that's...
great. So let's go to who else wants to... Well, fine, Brent, you can talk about Black and Blue.
Yeah, I think it's a good song. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, to be perfectly honest, which is probably why I had it ranked relatively low. I think it's just a pretty solid song. I like the way it ends. It kind of just peters out and goes into this sort of spacious zone. But there's nothing that really stands out to me about the lyrics or the music.
Rob, let's go to you.
So Black and Blue falls, when I was ranking the album, everything from kind of 12 to 7 could have interchanged at any point on any given day, just how I felt about the songs and how I go. But I think with Black and Blue, there are much stronger ballads, as Chris says on there, that it feels like it falls short compared to songs that I've got higher on the list. It is a beautiful song. I think Adam's vocal performance in it is excellent as well. But yeah, it just sort of filters away for me. There's not a great deal that sort of makes it a memorable song.
All right, and Jeff, let's go to you. Jeff, you and I had it ranked the lowest, so we'll go to you first. I hate, by the way, I feel bad. I feel guilty ranking anything low that Adam created, but there is a ranking, so yep.
Yeah, right. Well, for me, it was like I feel like there are 7 just great songs on this album and 7 songs that are all on the lost column for me. And so this very clearly was in the lost column. It always felt, I think a lot of the songs on this album in the lost column are just underdeveloped. They didn't work on these songs long enough. Like there's some good ideas in there and some interesting things, but they're just, what they did in a lot of cases on this album was instead of developing the songs was they just added some more instruments and little fills and harmonies and stuff to it, but it never really goes anywhere. So fun fact, because we were talking about should they just drop 2 or 3 songs from this album, Recovering the Satellites, 59 minutes and something seconds. This Desert Life, 59 minutes and something seconds. Hard Candy, 59 minutes and something seconds. Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, 59 minutes and something seconds. This is this is all from Wikipedia. I couldn't believe it either. Go look it up. I think This Desert Life includes the space, but that shocked me because I thought, well, Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, I'm sorry, is longer, I think. But or maybe it's not. Anyway, I was shocked that many of their albums come in at that length. And so they seem to really like 59 minutes and think that that's the perfect length for an album for them. But yeah, I have to say, for me, this one was a clear loss. I guess I know for some people, this is like your favorite Counting Crows song. And so, and that's great. I like that we all have different opinions and stuff about this. For me, this song, I've heard it a million times, tried it again many times prepare for this episode, and thumbs down. Sorry, Adam.
Okay. Yeah, I feel, I know what you're saying, Jeff. Like, it's funny. A lot of us, really most of us had and that's why we have certain breaks here. There was generally a top 7 or 8 that we generally agreed on, and then kind of the next group and kind of where we went there. And my top 7 kept changing every couple days. I will say though that but a little bit of me too thinks I don't mind having some of Black and Blue is a perfect example of a song I don't mind having on the album. I like it even though I've had it as my second least favorite. That it's still, and I actually appreciate it more live. They played it in LA when I was there, and I really enjoyed hearing it live, even though on the album, yeah, I didn't think it was the best. So, okay, great. Still liked it, but yeah, I had it a little lower, and number 13 on our rankings. Now, number 12, and this is, boy, I'm really the iconoclast on this one. This is another one that almost everybody had low, except for, it looks like Jeff and I had it a little higher, which would be their, what is it, New Wave Poppy? Is that how you'd call it? New Frontier.
New Frontier.
And so that would be our 12th in the group rankings. Now, Jeff, you can add some, me and you and I can talk about this first. You can add some insight, because I think we mentioned this once, that when the Crows first formed, they were almost talking about making this kind of music. And this is their kind of more modern, I say that about a 25-year-old record, but their more modern take on the 80s or something like that. I have no idea why. It's not particularly, I guess, melodic. I think it could be developed a little more. I had this ranked number 9. I like this song. I don't skip it. I think it's kind of, to Chris's point, a little silly, and some of the lyrics are a little ridiculous about aluminium. Oh, I'd like Rob's take on the British English and mining the tracks and stuff. But I don't know. I just like it. I think it's just fun, even though I think it's a fun song, even, and I like them kind of experimenting, even though it's not my top 8. So Jeff, let's go to you.
Yeah, well, again, to me, it still goes in the lost column. I would call it a failed experiment. I dislike it less than the other songs, so that's why it got as high as number 9 for me. But I do think that one, it's a hearkening back to what the band was trying to maybe sound like in the early days, and I think for that reason, it's very cool. I like what they were trying to do with it. The song itself is about how a singer communicates with his audience and how the audience communicates with the singer. And I just think that's a cool idea, and using new technology to do that. There is a little bit of the like Shallow Days demo in here. You can hear a little bit of Einstein on the Beach in here, just a little bit, those 2 songs, if you like those, I feel like it kind of goes in that vein. Like I said, I love it when a great band tries to do something new and different. And that's clearly what they tried to do here. I think they didn't succeed or get it across the finish line, but I really appreciate that they tried something different. It does sound different. It'd be a fun song to see live. And then the only other thing I noticed was that the line "inside of you" is in this song and also in "Carriage." That laws, all inside of you or inside of you is in this song and "Carriage," and they're right next to each other on the album as well, in that really rough middle patch of the album where a lot of these kind of songs are in there. And so to me, that was another sort of, it's part of what adds to the problem of this album, is you have these songs that are like taking a line like that, building a track around it, then putting those songs next to each other on the album. So not one of my favorites, but I do appreciate some things about New Frontier.
Chris, let's go to you.
So yeah, I had this one pretty low as well. I think we're all kind of aligned so far in the idea of it's kind of being kind of a failed experiment. And it's interesting you brought up, Jeff, because I did have a note that it kind of reminds me of like Einstein on the Beach. Then part of me is like, why won't you play Einstein, Adam? I mean, that's a better. Yeah. I feel like that's a more successful in certain ways pop song than this one. It's a delightful, again, it's a delightful song. I don't have a sort of a problem with it, but in terms of like the way it connects to me, it didn't have much there. Interestingly, it's been played a little bit. It has sort of like they bring it out every now and then, although it has not been played since 2015. So you could see it live. It's possible. It's a thing that happens. Yeah, I don't know.
So Brent, your take on New Frontier?
Yeah, so Chris said that he kind of has a different interpretation of this album now than he did when it came out. And I feel the same way. I listened to this album so much when I was a teenager. And I think a lot of the emotional stuff from this album I don't connect to as much anymore. And then a song like New Frontier, I really didn't like it early on. But when I go back and listen to it now, I'm like, well, it's kind of interesting. It's got is it a theremin going on there? I don't know. It's got some strange instrumentation. So it's kind of cool to see a different style of song, even if it is kind of silly, if you really get right down to it.
Rob, your take on Aluminium and Minding the Gap. I almost wanted to buy a Mind the Gap t-shirt, not as a tribute to London, but as a tribute to the song. So
yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to bring up the correct use of aluminium. I was going to leave that to you guys and just sort of have it sit there. But I'm the exact opposite of Brent here. When the album first came out, I loved New Frontier. It was sort of like, yeah, this is so like happy and like really sort of like it was an outlier in the album. It stood out so much, and I'm like, this is great. But the more I've grown up, the more I've listened to the rest of the songs, and it doesn't sort of hold that same love anymore. It just kind of sits there in that sort of bottom echelon, like you say, that rough patch in the middle. I think it follows some really great songs, so it's got a real difficult job to make itself heard. So yeah, but aluminium is absolutely the correct use of that word.
I mean, it's weird. This one, I was just looking at the lyrics a little bit. This one, I don't want to talk about it too much, but obviously it's based upon some real things that happened. Usual, you probably had conversation with some girl with, what was it, marvelous hair in London, etc. But some of these lyrics are pretty abstract that you kind of see a little more later, right? It's a little less literal, at least in my opinion. And I think this is start of that transition that really comes up later, and certainly, yeah.
Yeah, you can almost see this on Somewhere Under Wonderland, Eric.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's exactly what I was thinking. So yeah, you're right, Jeff, about the inside of you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, okay, a little more of yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't skip it. A little more success for me, but I understand why some. So to your point, Jeff, before we move, clearly the three examples, which is interesting on an album that they wanted to be more poppy or right, more perfected songs. Although I guess that's partly what this is. I was going to say three songs clearly they went out of the traditional comfort zone, which was the Big Yellow Taxi, even the original, because they hadn't used that kind of drum beat before in anything. That's for sure. You wouldn't hear that in August. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
And then this song, and then of course. Butterfly in Reverse, I think is a little bit out of their comfort zone. Okay. So now for song number 11, we haven't gone to the top 10 yet. The song, now this is the first time we've really diverged. Big Yellow Taxi, I was a bit different than everyone, but this is one of the few times recently that Chris and I might not 100% love each other, because I had this song as my lowest, and Chris had it quite high. And by the way, I also am, I hope James Campion is not listening, because I know he loves this song, which is Carriage. And I had as the lowest, Chris had as the highest. So you had it as number 5 on your list. I think James Campion said that it was his favorite song on this album. And I know people like the song, just like Jeff said. I know people love Black and Blue. So Chris, let's start with you and Carriage.
Yeah, no, and this is interesting because this is not traditionally a song I had super high in my mind as I was like going into listening to this record. But listening to this song again, I thought was really striking and beautiful. I really love the trumpet playing by Andre Carter on this is really beautiful. It really, kind of struck me as a more mature version of some of the themes that are discussed in the earlier records. The song is about someone having a miscarriage. But really it's about sort of Adam, and one could extrapolate sort of a little bit a man's relationship to someone having a miscarriage, right? The idea of all of the things that are sort of inside that other person, right? It was all inside of you. The how connected and but how it's not yours, right? This is not his pain really to deal with. And what's kind of interesting about it is that I sort of connect it a little bit to like Goodnight Elizabeth, right? Goodnight Elizabeth is a song about someone breaking up with you and you going out and like, Adam sort of having a good time to sort of ease that pain. And while it's kind of sad, it's also kind of triumphant, right? I'll miss you when I'm slipping in between is not said like with a tear, you know what I mean? Whereas this song that I think also sort of is kind of talking about that, about maybe using other people to sort of numb pain, it's maybe a realization that that's not going to work anymore, that there are some things that are not going to be numbed by these sorts of things. And it's sort of, again, thus a more sort of grown up kind of version of it. And I think anyone who's dealt with issues of conception, and I think it's a very kind of powerful and beautiful song. I had it, I said it's sort of a group of ballads. I actually had it, I think the highest, I had it number 5. I had it the highest of a group of ballads that I have in sort of the top group of them. And I think it's a really interesting, if people haven't listened to it in a while, I think it's really kind of worth kind of re-examining in the context of their records. And they should play it more if they can get Andre Carter to show up and play some trumpet, is my feeling. So.
Yeah, sorry, Brent. Going to you next. You had it kind of in the middle lower. So what would you like to say about it?
Yeah, I had it 9th. I think it's a fine song. To me, it's pretty different from anything else. It's probably the saddest song, to me, the hardest listen of anything on the first 4 albums. So in that regard, I think I've probably not listened to it that much, but I really appreciated it the first, couple of dozen times that I heard it. Like Chris, I really like the horns. I think that really brings the song together. But to me, it's just another middle of the road song. But it's hard to say a song that this emotional could be thrown out. To me, it's so emotional that it's got to carry some weight with the fans.
Thank you, Rob. Your thoughts on Carriage?
So I have Carriage at 13. I think its position on the album really hurts it as a song as the album floors. You come from New Frontier where it's all diddle-diddle-doo, diddle-diddle-doo, and then it's like, I'm going to hit you in the face with a song about miscarriage, and you're like, I'm not ready for that. And I think it's so jarring in that moment. It sort of takes me out of the experience of the album, and it takes me out of the experience of the song. And then followed by Black and Blue makes it, again, struggle behind that song in my eyes, because I think Black and Blue is just a little bit of a stronger song overall. So it just doesn't sort of, like I say, it really takes you out of the moment of the album and reduces the impact of it. As I say, you're right with how strong it is lyrically and with the horns and all the pieces that lie with it, but it just sort of loses its place because of where it's placed in the album for me. I think if it was at the end or a little bit earlier, it might have hit different, but it's always been sort of sat there for me.
That's interesting. Yeah, thank you.
That's a good point. You go straight from thinking about how we should pronounce the word aluminum, and you've got some weird theremin or something that's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend had a miscarriage too. It is pretty jarring.
Jeff, we'll go to you, even though I don't know if I trust anything you say after I thought we were bonding on New Frontier. And it's like, I really like it, and you gave it a thumbs down at number 9. That's horrible. But anyway, Jeff, let's go to you. I'm kidding.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I mean, again, I ranked it number 11, but it could have been 12. It could have been 13. To me, this goes in a group of songs on this album that were just underdeveloped and kind of don't go anywhere. I guess listening to it again, and I did listen to it, this album a whole bunch of times to kind of warm up for the show. It has kind of an early Washington Square feel to it. There's a little bit of Walkaway's Mercury in there. Like, if you like those songs, I can see, what you might like in this song. To me, it just always felt underdeveloped. And, adding the trumpet again, to me, it's just, I felt like sometimes they did that in this album. They just said, well, let's throw a trumpet on there. Okay, now we got something different, like New Frontier. This is different, so we're going to go with it. And to me, Adam's commitment to writing pop songs on this album, although I know he says that, and we're going to see some examples of that, I don't think you see that on some of these songs. I think these are pretty underdeveloped songs. And no matter how many times I've heard them, this is another one that's in the lost column for me. Sorry, everybody. I know some of you love this song so much.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, I appreciate one thing you said. Yeah, I don't know if it's underdeveloped, but I was going to go on... anyway, I was going to comment.
Washington Square? Was it the Washington Square connection?
No, I can't rebut. But I do say that overall, one thing we didn't say is I do think that about the carefully, I agree with you about the carefully, like this would not be an example of hard candy, right? This is not, and probably more than any other song on here, I would say that this is not, and in some ways it doesn't fit in. This should be like a bonus track or something like that, or another. I do love. I disagree with you about the horns. I think it fits in beautifully here, and I got to say, is it 3 or 4? Right? Andre Carter, that's his name, right? Is on Chelsea and Palisades Park, and this one. Is there another one, or is it just those 3?
Those are the 3 that immediately spring to mind.
Yeah.
If there's one more, I mean, that's those 3 though are really like.
Yeah,
and I think of him.
And I love it in all 3. So even though I had this as my least favorite, I think it's because it's the first.
You had it last. Interesting.
Yes. I think it's because it's the first Counting Crows song that not all the time, but I would sometimes skip or could skip on this CD, where I didn't feel that way even about maybe Black and Blue and some of the others. I do like, I'm looking at the lyrics now. I do like the first verse, and I do like the thing about the world of chocolate bars and baseball cards. But one thing I guess I didn't like, and maybe I can't relate to some of this, is I thought it was a little too on the nose, some of the lyrics. Like, I think you could have got the same points across. That's just my take on it, about the inside of you and the evidence congealing and lips and eyes. I just think that's just my take on it.
I think that part of it, though, I think that only works if you've been told what the song's about. I think it's pretty. But I'm with you. I do take the idea that in certain ways, this is relative to this record. Like this song might be much more beloved if it was a bonus track to this record.
Yeah.
Because you'd go, oh, like here's Chelsea. This cool thing.
Yeah.
Like Chelsea. As opposed to sort of, again, in a very, it's definitely different than a lot of the rest of the record.
All right, but definitely appreciate it. I appreciate. I at least I love that other people like it. I want to say it's one of my least favorite Counting Crow songs. Maybe my second. My first is coming up in a future album. So okay, here we go. Now this is the last of the well, it can't be quadrant, whatever I forget now, what's the, for six categories?
Sextant.
Yeah,
Sextant.
sextant, but the category number
Hey, easy,
5,
guys, easy.
which is now let's see here. I think most of us had this in the middle, but 2 of us, oh no, you know what? 2 had it in, this is why it's in still this lower group. 2 had it in the middle, 2 had it lower, and one of us had it right at the bottom, would be their hit, quote unquote, single, American Girls. I have lots of thoughts about it, but let's go to the people that like it, which would be the highest ranking were Rob and let's go to Rob. Rob, let's start with you. You had American Girls number 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go to you.
So I think American Girls is really different for me to how it is to you guys, because we didn't get the Coca-Cola commercial. We didn't get the whole stuff that went with it. We just got it as a single at some point. It was just like on the album there. So we didn't get it. That came with all that sort of commercial side of like, here we are with Coca-Cola. We just kind of got American Girls. And my love for that song is there shouldn't be a song that sounds that happy that ends with those lyrics. Like, it's just such a sad song, but the happiest song on the album. It's such a wonderful juxtaposition of how he works his lyrics into that song. Like, singing You Make Me Cry over and over again in a summer anthem that's on a Coca-Cola advert in the US just brings me so much joy that they're so smart to get away with that kind of thing. And we can say that they've sold out, they've done the Coca-Cola thing, but you listen to the lyrics of that song, there's no sellout in that song. It's just, they've made a beautiful hard candy pop song with these beautifully dark, hurtful lyrics inside, and I love that about the song.
All right, great. Rob, we already said to Rob. So Jeff, you also had it. You had it in the middle. I don't know if this made your plus, or I can't tell from your list. It's one above New Frontier. Okay, you had it as a negative also, so this could have been anywhere in the bottom 7 for you. Jeff, geez, come on.
I know.
Jeff's favorite album, where he only likes 2 songs. But just kidding. So Jeff, let's go to you. Your thoughts about American Girls.
Yeah, so I think to me, this is a pretty okay song with just terrible lyrics. There are songs like Some Girls by the Rolling Stones, the great title track to their amazing 1978 album. That kind of does the same thing. That's a song that doesn't age so well either lyrically, but
and even they call it Some Girls, # not all girls.
Yeah, yeah, right. But then there's like American Girl by Tom Petty, which is about a specific person and is a great song as a result. So, I think lyrically, the lyrical conceit to me always from the very beginning, it's like, I'm this rock star and I'm going to tell you what it's like to sleep with American girls or, French girls. This is what the Stones were doing. French girls are like this and American girls are like this. And, these girls are like that. I think it's an okay song. I like what Sheryl Crow did with it. I think there's, again, this with some different lyrics and a different kind of conceit overall, I think there was something here. But this paired with the video, which shows us, here's what Adam was thinking. I don't know if they play this one a lot, but I doubt that they do. All right.
Brett, let's go to, no, it's interesting. They don't play it much recently. You never know if it might come back, but it's interesting given that it was a fairly successful single, moderately successful.
Yeah, it was number 1 on the AAA charts. This was a big song for them. This was a big hit. But it's sort of, it hasn't been remembered the way that some of their other hits have, I think.
It was last played in 2007, so they have pretty fully abandoned this one. And once, it was last played regularly in 2004, and even that was only 9 plays. It's been a while.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Jeff, I don't agree with everything you say. A little negative to me. But what's really interesting, and I don't 100% agree with you in the lyrics. I'll talk about mine in a second. But one interesting thing is you are kind of in alignment then with Matt Malley, who did not like
that's
the
true.
release
Yeah,
of this song.
Yeah,
and he was he thought it was a little bit shallow of a song.
Yeah,
especially in the wake of 9/11, but in general,
so edible. He was saying it's like
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, I was about to mention that the lyrics, American girls are all feathers and cream, coming to bed so edible. Adam has said he hated those lyrics after the fact, but is anything less edible than feathers? I mean, the analogy just totally breaks down. And in general, I'll say that this album, compared to the first three albums, to me, the lyrics are a lot worse. Like, I can't really think of any lyrics that I really had a problem with on the first three albums. On this fourth album, and I'll probably bring this up a few times, there's lyrics I just don't really understand what we're going for. But to me, this song, the guitar intonation more than anything else drives me insane. Let's Try to Make a Hit doesn't really align with the type of music that we hear from Counting Crows the rest of the album or even the rest of their catalog, and that's why I had it last. Although I do like Sheryl Crow in the background. I think she did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Chris, before my thoughts, you have anything to add?
Yeah, sure. No, I do. Actually, it's a really interesting song to kind of break down. I think my biggest issue with the lyrics, is that, and I think everyone's got issues with the lyrics. It's a very there are songs on this record that we'll get to. We haven't gotten to them yet, where there's some interesting juxtapositions of how the song sounds and the lyrics, and some really interesting angles on it. This one, I think, is going for that, but it's very muddled, right? And I think particularly, if you think about most of the verses, right, it's about a relationship, right? It's about Adam and a girl, and it's sort of describing this feeling of like kind of finding, and maybe she's breaking his heart. Could he have been anyone, or whatever? And that sort of works. But then there's this weird jump in the chorus to American girls, and it feels very, to the point maybe before, it feels very try hard. Like it's about a girl, but now I'm going to sort of expound about like some general concept about girls in America, which feels like the rest of the song doesn't support that though. It's about a person, and it doesn't work. We don't know why this is American. What's very American about this person? It's odd. It loses something. And I think that's aspect of it. It's just strange. So it's an interesting attempt. And I think as like a song, if you sort of shut your brain off and don't think about the lyrics, I kind of like it.
Yeah. I agree.
But it's a really odd song to sort of break down. I will also note they put together in like late 2003, early 2004, they put together an acoustic version of this. They played live for a bit, which is beautiful. Like it's a really like it really brings out the sort of, there's some lovely aspects to the song that are in that acoustic version. So I think that's worth hearing if you can hear some of those live versions. But I had it down. I think it's like number 11 or something. It just feels like an experiment that just didn't quite hit. Anything else here? Also, just sort of interesting that it ties to Black and Blue a little bit. The breakable things under your skin. So there's but again, Black and Blue makes a lot more sense if you take that line. Like the tone of Black and Blue makes a lot more sense than the tone of American Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you on a lot of this, and I don't want to I didn't want to defend it. I don't want to say it's my favorite song, even though Jeff's comments upset me a little bit. No, I know what you're saying about the about the lyrics and some of the ideas. I had it as my fourth, and to be honest, I was really fourth least favorite. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was really shocked, and given that I bought this album the day it came out, I don't know when I realized it was the single. I don't know when but then I was like, geez, that's what they picked as the best song here. To me, clearly, a little bit they were trying to recapture Hanging Around a little bit as being like kind of their poppy version. And when you said, Brent, like the way they have the guitar in that part that you don't like. To Chris's point, one thing that makes me appreciate it, and I never really loved this song, but one thing that made me appreciate it a little more is that. But the original version, I don't know, I don't think the original one is the same as the acoustic. I'm thinking of the one that, for those of you that want to check, barely out of Tuesday's account again, American Girls from the Hard Candy Live 4 for Boys album. It was recorded from Bimbo, San Francisco, 2003.
That would be the acoustic. That would be the rearrangement. Okay. That would be the acoustic.
That's the rearrangement. Yeah, it's not acoustic that you're thinking, or that some people might think of it, where it's just like a guitar or one guitar. It is amazing. Like if this was it's almost like the across a wire. You hear that and you're like, wow, this is so. That version of American Girls, I was like, if they had recorded that would it might even reach my top half. I thought it was so good and what it should have been. And I just think that maybe to your point, Jeff, that either underdeveloped or we're trying too hard to make it to something that it really shouldn't have been, I guess. I don't think, Chris, I think you're exactly onto something where I realize what Jeff's saying about a lot of it's from his point of view, but I think what they were going, but it was not developed, is they wanted it to also, all right, they wanted it to be partly Adam and his view of the girls, but I think they also wanted it to be an anthem for American girls that they would also relate to it. It's not just about the rock star, but none of that really came across.
In wet t-shirts.
I think
as long as you
there's
have
a lot
t-shirt.
of songs there's a lot of songs that do that stuff much more successfully
exactly.
than the rest of the record. I think that's a theme of the best songs in the record, are sort of like Adam really kind of questioning himself and throwing a lot of stuff back on himself, and this song fails to do, like, sort of, or at least in the way it comes off, sort of fails to do that. It's a little, he's like he's trying to get to, like, was this me or was this her, or maybe it's like kind of it's my fault, but then it just sort of goes to the chorus again, and you kind of lose any of the introspection, and it just sort of.
Chris, I think that's a great point, though, that the verses are really good, and the music, I like the verses on it. It's like it's that chorus that does it. It's like that chorus is just so you're going in a different direction, but the verses are cool. It's like there's a potential for a great song in there for sure. I like the music and everything, but I don't care if a song's not like politically correct at all. Like, that's totally. I could care less about that component of it, but to me, it's just like. I just don't feel like this represents who Adam Duritz is as an artist in any way. And it doesn't represent my fandom at all of this band and what they're about. Like, sorry.
Other than to Rob's point, the way to chant "You Made Me Cry" at the end of a pop song, a summer pop song, is very Counting Crows.
That's true.
And it didn't get to I don't want to say girl power, but again, I could be reading into it. I think a little bit of those, like, he was, or somebody was hoping that the quote unquote American girls would be like, yeah, we're lovable, a little bit complicated, but we're fun. And
that's right.
You make us, you know what I mean? You make us, we make you fight for it, and we might give you a hard time, but we're worth it in the end. That never really 100% came across, even though it's not a horrible idea. I also want to say, I guess this comes to, last thing about this song is it comes to that acoustic rearrangement that I just find amazing. Again, go listen to it, is that this is the only song. So I do think one thing about this album is you talked about the pop shine on it, the pop sheen and the producing. In general, I think it's a 10 out of 10. I think the mixing, the production is perfect. This is the one song I think they did something wrong. They tried too hard. They could have went the acoustic route. So I'm curious how much Lily White had a hand in this, making it maybe something it's not. But even, what did I have? Even Carriage I had low. I thought the production and mixing and engineering was perfect for what that song wanted to be. Okay, so let's move into the fourth group, moving on up to two songs in this one. So these are songs that I guess they were the most controversial in that some of us had it like in the top 5 and some of us had it in the bottom 5. So that's how they ended up in this group. The next one maybe I guess would be predictable based upon what people have said. But 2 of us had it in top 7 and 2 of us had it in the, near the middle. And then one of us had it low, which of course would be Jeff. Jeff wrote me and said, can I have more negative rank? Can you, more, can we change the ranking? Anyway, just kidding. So let's, Butterfly in Reverse, which I had number 10. And also, so Chris, we've been agreeing on a lot, by the way. We agreed on American Girls and Butterfly. Let's go to someone who had it the highest, which was Rob Nixon, who had it at number 5, his 5th favorite song on the album.
I did. This is one of those songs that has grown on me so much. And I think I love the fact that they've wrote a song that should be on a Broadway musical, or it could fit into The Sound of Music or Mary Poppins, or there's just something so beautiful about that, the ability to do that. And you can tell that when, Adam and Ryan have got together and finally wrote this song out, that they've decided to just go all in on this and just buy into that. And I love the build into the chorus and how it's so sort of orchestral feeling. And it's just a really beautiful song that sort of lifts after Goodnight LA. I think because of the placement on the album for it works well for me. You just come off the back of like a really beautifully saddish feeling song, and then Butterfly in Reverse comes in, and you're like, oh, I'm sat watching The Sound of Music, and it's wonderful.
Great. And thank you and I do like Butterfly in Reverse, and Adam, who obviously loves the song, brought it back. Would like to thank Rob and Brent for joining this podcast because you helped elevate it in the rankings. Brent, you also had it fairly high. We had it around the middle. So please talk about Butterfly in Reverse.
Yeah, I could understand. I could tell Jeff doesn't like this song very much, and he is not alone. A lot of people I know that are big Counting Crows fans really don't like this song, and I know critics were highly critical of it, basically saying that Adam was just listening to old albums and just spit something out that sounded like the Beatles or something. But to me, it's just a pretty song. It sounds good. I don't really connect with the lyrics or anything, but I think it's just a fun song. The music is interesting. It's in 3/4 time, which Counting Crows don't do too much in 3/4 time. They only have one on each of the first 3 albums. They only have 2 on this album. So to me, in that regard, it stands out a little bit. The other one's Goodnight LA, by the way. So I don't know. It's nothing stands out about it. You could probably do without it, but it's to me, it sounds good, and that's good enough for me, I guess.
All right. I almost was going to skip Jeff because I'm worried no crows will ever come on the podcast again. But Jeff, let's go to you. No, you had this fairly low, third lowest. Yep.
Yeah, number 12. I'm not going to beat up on it. I know Adam really likes this song a lot. Seeing it live on the tour, then play it on tour the last couple of years has helped me, I guess, appreciate it a little bit more. And I really love the lyrical concept of A Butterfly in Reverse because we're used to this idea of the blossoming, something transforming into something larger than it was. And this idea of something that was beautiful and wonderful transforming into like a smaller, lesser version of itself. I love that concept, like just lyrically. I think that's so cool. And even Rob's point about it almost sounding like it could come from a Broadway musical or something. So, I'm not here to beat up on Butterfly in Reverse. I know a lot of people love it. To me, it falls in that same category of songs that just, they needed to spend some more time developing these and sort of getting them there. But I don't really have anything else, anything super negative to say about it. Sorry, Eric. It does go on the loss column for me, but there you go.
That's fun. I always have fun teasing you. Chris, let's go to you, and then I'll give my thoughts.
Well, let's think about like the development of the lyrics. There's a great story about this song that Adam was hanging out with Ryan Adams a bunch around this time, and he showed him this song, and Ryan Adams was like, "That's an amazing lyric." He's like, "Which one?" He's like, "Had a lot of girlfriends, I should have known them." He's like, "No, it's had a lot of girlfriends, I should have known then." And Adam was like, "Wait a minute, yours is a lot better. That's actually you misheard it, and that's pretty good." So I think there's I always just like that story. But yeah, maybe there was more to develop here. But it's a pretty song that just kind of works. I like that it's about his friend, and it's one of the few, Counting Crow songs. It's not about an ex-girlfriend. And it's I like it. But I don't love it. I have it a little bit below. And interestingly, most of my my top half here, my top 8 is going to be in the top 8. So that's interesting. But yeah, I had it just a little below my equator.
And that was for most of us, actually. As I said, that's why kind of, the demarcation came up that way. I had it number 10. I've talked about it before. I love that they brought it back because it was this, most people would probably put it on the lowest half of the album, and it was from an album 25 years ago that was their 4th most popular album, and then he brings this back. That's why I like the Crows, that they play like Children in Bloom live in this. I've said it's kind of maybe overplayed a little bit now. He said he'll keep playing it forever until he gets sick of it now. I think it's a good song. It's definitely one of the more experimental ones, so I give him credit for that. I mean, it's interesting that Ryan Adams, he doesn't sing on it, right? He just co-wrote it. Which I was a little bit surprised. It clearly, I think, is one of the 2 songs. You could argue 3, but clearly there are 2 songs that are Beatle-esque, I think, and I think this is one of them. I mean, I know people will, criticize me for this, but I could see this as, one of the, the Beatles writing a song similar to this, the way the melodies go and stuff. That's just my take on it. I'm not saying that it's, it would be their best song. But yeah, it's not great. And, I happen to date a Marianne. I didn't feel the way that he feels about it, her here, but yeah,
Well,
sometimes
but
it
it's
doesn't.
not because it's interpolation, right? It's Mary Louise. It's for
Oh,
Mary Louise
right.
Parker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good.
if you'd known a Mary Louise, you would have liked her a lot better. So
Yeah.
it would have been different.
Yeah, it always helps though. Like at the time, maybe I only had like 3 or 4 serious girlfriends, and one was her. So that always kind of helps when the lyrics, right, mentions X, even if it's not the right one. Like you said, it was Mary Louise. So let's go to song. So now we're into that was number 9 actually. So Butterfly in Reverse was number 9. Now we're to number 8. I think clearly this is the most quote unquote controversial song because two of us had it in our top 5 and the other 3 of us had it in our bottom 5. Here we go. If you haven't figured it out, which would be Counting Crows' "Good Time." And I will. Who had it highest?
Probably me.
I did. It was me.
Okay.
You and I had
We're in
it. Jeff,
agreement.
finally we can agree.
My
Finally,
brother.
Jeff, we can
My
agree.
brother.
Because everyone else had it in the bottom 5. Now I kind of moved
And we
this up a lot.
understand.
Yeah, and I might have moved this up 1 or 2 spots because my best friend who got into the Crows with me, Todd, and he, by the way, he always like, oh, I hope they play this live. And even though they play it very irregularly, like 1 every 10 shows, they always play it when he attends. Well, whether they do it for him or not, I'm not sure.
It's definitely just for Todd. There,
Yeah, just
it's
for
definitely
Todd. And this is another song that, well, I shouldn't say another one, but this is definitely a song that I rank it high, particularly because how it is on this album. That I think the production quality of this song might be the best in the whole album, separate from the song itself. Like just and I was trying to, I couldn't put it, difficult to put into words. I wrote to someone like a subtle genius song, but even what I imagine is Imi's guitar solo near the end, it's very muted. Where almost every other time Imi does a solo for the Crows, it's very loud and in your face. And I almost picture them like hanging around somebody's apartment, like playing this song, even though that's not the case. I don't know, Jeff. Maybe you could. This was the hardest for me to describe why I like it. I just think the song itself it's. I don't even know how you describe it. Like it's kind of slow rocky or almost bluesy. I have no idea. Jeff, please help me out here.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to get to talk about the songs that I like on this album because the songs that I like, man, do I like them. And this is one of the ones that's a big win for me. It's number 5, but it's hard to rank the top ones too because they're all so good. First of all, the use of space in this song. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
That's part of it, right?
Part of it's the use of space. Another part of it is Matt motherfucking Malley, man. That dude is just so nice on the bass. He really is. He's, as much as I realize the history between him and Adam. Boy, when he delivers like no one else. This song, one of the things that you like about it, Eric, I think, is that it reminds us of "Baby, I'm a Big Star Now." It's got the wah-wah guitar, the distortion, the organ. It's really cut from the same cloth production-wise as "Baby, I'm a Big Star Now." It could have been like almost from the same production session. I think maybe a little bit, less distortion on the guitar. But another component that I love about this album, and Lily White's production is really, I think, known for this sort of thing. And here's one of the songs where I just noted it when I was listening. One of the cool things that a great producer does on an album like this is they don't just have the, verse number 1, and then here's verse number 2, and it sounds exactly the same production-wise. They're always adding something and changing something and floating something in. So here you get that little arpeggio banjo coming in just very briefly during the second verse, and then it goes away, Part of the magic of this album and the magic of bringing in somebody like Lily White to produce are those sorts of moments and what makes it so cool. And it comes back.
And Charlie and Jeff, doesn't Charlie only come on really strong at one part where it's like ding, ding,
exactly.
Ding, ding,
Yes.
right?
Yes. These just beautiful. Yeah. Right. And I also absolutely love the ending vocals and line, just the lyrics from Adam being a boy from Texas and red-haired girls and all that kind of stuff. That's like the opposite of what he's doing with that sort of grouping everybody together in American Girls is very specific in a way because it's talking about his own preferences, and I don't know. I just think it's an absolutely beautiful song. I love that line. I love everything about Good Time. I think
And I could be totally wrong. I almost saw that ending too, and that's funny. Brent will have a comment on that. I almost saw it as like a little, like, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. At least I always interpreted a lot of his songs, and maybe I think that's why Todd likes it. Like, he's talked about so much that he hates being at parties and striking up conversations, and that he's not the conversationalist, even though he knows he's kind of charming. And I think some of that is like looking at everybody else at the party and being very good.
Yeah.
And then, right, he stuttered. And then I see the ending a little bit as being almost kind of farcical, I guess, in a way, and that he's, forget about this
whimsical,
party. He's just going to, whimsical, that I'm just going to dream about this other kind of silly thing to end it.
And the drums too. I'm sorry, but the drums from Ben Mize are so good on this song. And I think also, but a lot throughout this album, but on this album, he does a great job on this song of like the stuttering drum parts that are sort of going along with it. So another thing that just really stood out. All right,
so let's go to Rob, who had it in the middle, and then we'll go to Chris and Brent that had it lower. So Rob.
Yes. So look, on any other given day, this could have been higher. It's one of those songs that you can hit in different ways, but I think as I've gone through the album, I was conscious when I was doing my rankings that I listened to the album through as it was given to me, and it sort of just sits there. But I love the use of guitar. I know people, you said the drums and the banjo, but I love the use of guitar in this. There's the bluesy guitar in there, and then there's some, it feels really dirty in the middle a little bit, and there's just, it just moves beautifully. I mean, I know it's middle of my rankings, but anywhere from this point in the album, all the songs are phenomenal in my eyes. Yeah. But it's just got that nice floor to it. So I've got nothing bad to say about this song. It's just great. It comes on and you're just like, yes.
So good.
I can listen to this.
And thanks, Jeff, for bringing up Wildlife. Brent, let's go to you, who had it as your third lowest. So, Brent.
Yeah, I had it 12th, but that feels more like a subjective rating. It's just kind of how I feel about the song. I completely appreciate that the song is it's really interesting. It's really unique. It's the kind of song where when the critics do talk about how Counting Crows are just playing to their to bands from the 60s and such, that this is different. This is different from the type of song you would hear from really anybody else from the 60s or 70s or even now. And I don't know if that's necessarily always a good thing. I think why I don't love this song is I don't really understand what it's about. You guys have kind of alluded a little bit to what it's, maybe he's talking about the end. This feels like a total non sequitur, and he's talking about loving the red-haired girls. But it may just be as simple as I'm too thick to get into my skull. What this song is really. I want to hear. What do you guys think this song is about?
So there's a pull quote from Adam on this one. He saw a news something in like a tabloid magazine that suggested that he and Nicole Kidman were dating. Nicole Kidman would be the red-haired girl here. He had never met her. And so it's about this feeling of disconnection or something like that, and imagining what it must be like to be her and to have like these sort of lies, like basically to like the world sort of projecting things on you that are just not true, and just sort of like walk through the world like that. I personally, I struggle to relate to this song because no one's. I think maybe I don't want to speak for anyone. I think maybe everyone on this podcast and probably most of the listeners to the show have not had a tabloid suggest we were dating someone publicly. So I don't, maybe that's why I struggle to emotionally connect to this song.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because if it's about himself, the way it's phrased, it sounds like he's talking to a woman about a different man, right? So he says he can't think of what to say. I think you listen anyway. So if it's about himself, it's a strange way to phrase a song.
Although that could apply to maybe some of his disassociative stuff, right? That he's kind of looking to himself from the outside. Yeah. But that's just how I
got a brand new set of wings. Oh God, this song's so good, man.
I get it. I totally get it. It's
what's the song about? I think it is totally about. I mean, exactly that. It's about isolation and like you're at a party, you want to have a good time, just like everybody else seems to be having a good time. But then you're standing there, feeling this sense of isolation and disconnection. It really captures that. And I think at the end, it's almost like he wants to break away from that party, have the courage to go up to her and say, I got a brand new set of wings. Very Bruce Springsteen line at the end, let's just jump in a car and drive off into the night somewhere.
Is there something about boys from Texas liking red-haired girls?
I think he would be the boy from Texas. He's originally from Texas. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
although that does sound
like
that's
all the
Bruce
boys
though,
from
right?
Texas.
Yeah, a boy from
all the boys from Texas like red-haired girls.
Right.
So
Like,
all of them for some reason.
They like American girls. All the boys from
Right.
Texas like American girls with red hair. So it's very. There's
So
never been.
As I said, this was the probably most controversial song on the list, and we see it there. But Rob, I agree with you. Not only do I love the song, but I think if you separate what I have in my top 5, and I've kind of done this for most of the albums. Maybe the exception would be Mrs. Potter's, which, even though it's genius, well, maybe not the lyrics. I was going to say the music itself, I could see another band doing. But sometimes I rank songs, not only songs I like, but that nobody else except the Crows could do, or I haven't heard it a lot, so that's why I had this number 5. So anyway, let's go to another. So this is the third group, and this is.
Are you not even going to let me talk about this one, Eric?
Did I skip you? I thought you already did. I thought you bashed it enough. But yeah, no, please. Sorry.
I had this
Come
one.
on, man,
I had this one
have a
last.
good time.
Yeah.
I had this one last. This might be my least favorite recorded Counting Crow song.
What? Oh man,
I find it dull and boring, and I do not connect to it. It is the fact that this is one of the songs
Cut
they
'em
still
off.
kind of play live regularly from this record,
Yeah.
and not a couple of the songs we thankfully still have to talk about. Frankly, pains me the fact that they keep selecting this and not some other like classic songs that they have not played in like a decade. Like bothers me. I find this song. I just find it boring. I find it just kind of sits there. It like ruins the pacing of any live show I've seen it played at. I'm pretty positive about most Counting Crow songs at a certain level. Like this is one of the few where I'm really like I'm down on it. I'll leave that there. We can move on to. I have so many more nice things to say over the next
But I think that's
7 songs that we still have to go. So let's get there.
I think that's part of the beauty of this album, though, that you can sit there and say how much you dislike this song, but then other people, like you said, Jeff sat there going, "What are you talking?" Like that's why it's so.
I agree.
There's so many things in there that you can just sort of pull out from it. It's not like the first 3 albums where most people will be like, "These are the songs." Like this is Counting Crows. This has a little bit more.
I do. I always appreciate that. Comment period is that we have so many different ways to connect to the same album. I love this album. I'm sure Chris loves this album, but we don't share the same sentiment about this song, but that's okay. I think that's fine. It would be really boring if we were all like, oh yeah, we all voted exactly the same thing and thought the same way. But Chris, you just need to come to appreciate that those of us who ranked it highly are right and actually wrong. So.
Chris, I was going to say, and that's kind of what I hinted when I first brought it up. I don't think it's as powerful live, even though I still like it because I like the song. But I think its genius comes across more in the recorded version. I was really surprised, Jeff, and that's why I looked. I thought for sure Emmy would have been a co-writer of this song. This would have been my guess that this is the first time Emmy had a heavy influence on the song, but I was wrong. He didn't get writing credits for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go to Now, sorry to jump the gun on you, Chris. I thought you had already said your piece. Which is the song that it has its own. So this is all by itself. And this is number 7. I had it ranked very low. A couple of you had it high. I think it's the most mediocre Counting Crow song ever, which might shock us, which is Richard Manuel is Dead.
Ooh.
Or if I could give all my love to you, who had it the highest, which is Chris, who had it number 4. Let's go to Chris.
Yeah. Now we're Now you have to understand, Eric, what true genius is.
Heating up.
I feel like this is the song that American Girls wants to be. Like this is a song that's it's a beautiful pop song about feeling totally alone and unable to understand why you feel so alone. To really not just oh, it's sad that maybe this girl and I aren't going to fall in love and be together forever, but to really realize that you're so disconnected from yourself and who you are that you're not even you're not even sure how you're going to get there. And it's wrapped up in, like, when we talk about Hard Candy, it's wrapped up in a beautiful pop song. The guitars at the end of the chorus are tremendous. I think this is just like a great, I never, this is one that they can keep playing live. I never particularly get tired of hearing it. I do like they had some acoustic versions of this kind of early on, although more of the traditional like acoustic, like stripped down kind of versions that are very nice too. But yeah, I really like this one. And sort of sad that this is Richard Manuel was the first member of the band to die. We're recording this not long after Garth Hudson passed. So now we've got the last one. So they'll probably talk. I'm sure Adam will talk about it the summer on tour. We talk about the band and what these guys mean. And just also again, just the idea here. About memory, right? Because he's writing. I mean, Richard Manuel had died in the mid '80s, right? He's writing this long in the past, and so he's 86, right? He's sort of remembering this time, and maybe still feeling like he relates to that. Maybe feeling like he didn't understand himself then, and maybe he doesn't understand himself much more now. And that sort of journey that we've all taken we've all, hopefully, all of us here have like improved ourselves or feel like we've improved ourselves in our adult lives. There's probably a few things where you go, I don't know, I'm probably just as bad about that as when I was 23. And, so yeah, I think it's a classic and one of their, one of the best songs from the record.
Thank you. Let's go to Brent. You're the only one that had it, I guess, moderately lower like me. So Brent, please talk about. Oh no, Rob had it a little lower too. But Brent, let's go to you. I guess you had it in the middle.
Yeah, I had it fifth. I think it's a really good song. I think it's I could picture, if it's literally about him seeing this in the newspaper, which I think it actually is, just that feeling of reading that, and then also kind of having that self-absorption to think about what's going on in your own personal life. I don't know. I kind of relate to that idea. I love the guitars in it. I think it's just a great rock song. Like you said, Chris, this could have been the single instead of American Girls. Nothing but positive things. I think it's lovely.
All right, let's go to Rob. Now, sorry, I was looking at the wrong column. So Rob, you had it in the middle, right? You had it number 9, which is basically in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's this section really here where I've got kind of American Girls. If I Could Give All You Love, they're all whatever day it is, however my mood sort of hit. It could be anywhere, but in the listening of the album, it's sort of it's just there because I think all the other songs to come, in my eyes, are better songs than it. Not that I dislike this in any way. I agree with Brett totally. I think the guitar in this song is absolutely amazing, and the chorus is just so singable. You see this song live, and all you want to do is sing this chorus as loud as you can. I mean, I've seen them a couple of times, fortunately, and it's just so wonderful when they play it live. So it's not low because it's like, it's a plug-in song. It's low because, for me, what comes next is just better.
All right, great. Jeff, your thoughts on Richard Manuel's Dead?
Yep, I put it in the win column myself too. I like this song a lot. I put $1 Million Chorus. That's right. This is a great sing-along song. Apparently, this was one of the songs that the band had to work on quite a bit on this album. They recorded it a number of times. They kind of kept coming back to it. Couldn't quite get it, and finally, got it where it needed to be. So a hard-won victory. I think I like it for the same reason. As Good Time, it kind of sounds like that. It's got that "Baby I'm a Big Star Now" kind of chorus or something to it. I think that song would have fit so well on this album. I keep mentioning that song, but it does sound like some of these other tracks. And I'm like, that would have been such a great song to take one of these ones out that we don't like. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think also like, for me, I don't know. I mean, like The Last Waltz is just such a great concert film. If you haven't seen it, the band's last concert, which features just everyone on earth. I mean, it's like Bob Dylan comes out and Joni Mitchell comes out and Neil Young comes out. And it's just everybody at their prime. Van Morrison comes out, and it's just such an incredible concert film. If you haven't seen it, go see it. And maybe you'll appreciate just the kind of sadness that you feel when somebody like Richard Manuel, who's such a passionate and incredible musician and singer, when somebody like that passes, what we do, sort of feel when it's somebody who's very meaningful to us, when a musician passes. And so, this is an album about memory. And I think here's a song that really connects with this theme that Adam was trying to hit upon. And I love the way that he approached it too. So I really like this song a lot. I'm glad that they keep it alive and still play it a lot too, because I think it's a real good one. I always liked it.
Yeah. As an aside to Jeff's point, I mean, not to get this way, but as we were recording this week, there was the Fire Aid benefit for LA.
Oh, right.
It was really fascinating that they had sort of the both poles, like the old guard LA musicians and the new ones. Gracie Abrams, who's a much younger musician, played Long December, so counting Crow's relevance here. Yeah. But like Joni Mitchell, they are doing both sides now. Who's like still like Joni sort of still being here. I know Adam's a big fan of that record, but just like that was a fascinating show for that reason of kind of bringing like a weirdly, oddly affecting like sort of
Stephen Stills
5-hour concert. But yeah, and if you're listening to this and you haven't seen Joni Mitchell's version of Both Sides Now from that, it is really devastatingly beautiful. The Gracie Abrams version of Long December is nice, but the Joni Mitchell Both Sides Now was incredible, truly incredible.
Yeah, it's funny. Some people said something about the singles. I mean, the weird thing is, and maybe this is Adam might, especially given about the commercial and this kind of push. I know Adam has said he's been a couple times disappointed with record companies. I kind of think Hard Candy might have been one of those times. No, I don't think with the release of American Girls, but officially they only, I mean, I guess it's funny. If you look at what's charted as singles, American Girls, like you said, reached number one now it says Miami. I never heard Miami on the radio ever. I know they did not do a video. They did not release a CD single. So I don't know how it got charted in the top 10 of the adult chart. I don't know about that. Now, Big Yellow Taxi, I get that. And then If I Could Give All My Love officially was a single. I bought the CD single. They had a video for it. Yep. It's them prancing around Amsterdam. By the way, I love that video. Just them hanging. And that's another weird one that I think it was that in between time when Jim joined the band, but Matt was still there. And they're just kind of hanging around. Doing things. I don't know. It's a cool little video, but it sounds like someone had an idea, and it did chart in the top 100 in a couple of countries, including 50 in the UK and 90 in Australia. But I don't think was played at all in the United States. In my opinion.
Yeah. Another one with a bunch of CD singles where literally there's 4 different versions of this CD singles, including 2 UK ones, with just a bunch of different like B-sides, like covers and things like that. It's an interesting. Just if you go, it's an interesting Wikipedia page. Good version of Graham Parsons' "Return of the Grievous Angel" as one of the B-sides on this, right? And the Faces "Ooh La La,"
right? And that "Faces Ooh La La" is definitely. So some of those. I don't want to go too off the track, but that one is. And I got rid of my CD singles. That version of "Ooh La La" is definitely different than the one that was released in Underwater Sunshine. I know they re-recorded, but some of them sound exactly the same. Maybe even like Four White Stallions basically sounds the same. But Ooh La La, I think actually the CD single version is even a little better. I didn't talk about Richard Manuel. I don't. What did I have this as my third lowest? I can't. I don't. So Chris, the one thing I definitely will agree is I really do like the lyrics of this song. I think the lyrics might even be in the top 5 of this album. And yeah, even some of the, I guess the idea of reading about the death and you were sleeping next to me, I knew you were gone. And even the clock telling the time, I don't know. Yeah, I like it. It's funny. 2 of the things that you guys love about it, which is the chorus and the guitar are about the only 2 things that brings it down for me. I don't know why. So, but that's just how I interpret it. And one of those songs that they play, and I like hearing live, but I wish they would rotate some of these other songs in.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that leads us to the top 6, which is clearly in 2 categories. And this was generally all of us, with a few exceptions, had all of these songs in our top 6. So here we go. Oh, actually, just remember 2 points I did want to make about Richard Manuel. One is when I was talking about the record company, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said once that he just wanted to call it Richard Manuel's Dead. And I think it was the record company or someone like, because of the chorus, we should call it I Should Give All My Love to You or whatever. And he's like, okay, we'll call it both. And I think he kind of has that as like a tongue-in-cheek kind of screw you to the record company to have them both in there because now it's even more unwieldy.
Yeah.
So
it's super long.
What'd you say, Chris?
It's super long.
Yeah.
It looked insane on an album. Well, and actually, if you look at the album cover of the single, it just says "If I Could Give All My Love."
Okay. Yeah, I think he kind of did that as a screw you a little bit because he wanted to call it Richard Manuel, and he usually sticks to his guns against the record companies. And the other thing I wanted to say is I could be totally wrong about this, but as like a diehard Charlie fan who regrets I only said one sentence to him in my life, that I think I've said this before, but I think there's a clear, like, obviously he's important to all of these songs in every album, but the way someone's either mixing it or the production, I always thought, definitely now, that you don't hear Charlie's parts as much. You have to really be a big fan of the band or have a really keen ear to hear what he's adding to certain songs in the first three albums. Where I think every album after that you can clear, and I think that's a mixing and engineering. But Richard Manuel is just another example of that, where you can, at least in my mind, you can really hear what he's adding musically in the background, and you don't need to be super sophisticated. Okay, so here we go. Number 6. So all of us had this in our, let's see, the lowest people were, let's say, like Chris had it the lowest, and he still had it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7. So everybody had this in the top 7, which is what Adam calls their lullaby, Holiday in Spain. So let's start with the person. Jeff and Rob had this the highest. Jeff and Rob both having it at number 3. So let's start with Jeff.
Holiday in Spain. Yeah, right. Well, I think it can be easy to forget how good a song like Holiday in Spain is because they play it so much. And to me, this is kind of like, I think it has the best lyrics on the whole album. I think the lyrics are incredible. I think it's almost like a Long December on that level. Like I said, the album to me gets underrated, and you have a song like Holiday in Spain. It's like, to me, I guess the band obviously prizes the song, but to me, it's like, yeah, this is really like quite an achievement as a song, a real masterpiece, in my opinion. Adam the Poet.
Spain in your top 5. So let's hear about that.
Yeah, I had Holiday in Spain in my top 3. For me, this is, I think I had a really good experience with this song live originally. The lyrics of "Hop on my choo-choo, I'll be your engine driver in a bunny suit." Just the joy that Adam gets when he's singing that. You can see him sometimes; he gives you the bunny ears, and it's just a real beautiful moment. And like you said, they call it the lullaby. The piano in it is absolutely stunning. I agree with Jeff that lyrically it's up there with Long December quality of lyric. It's just such a. I know we've got sort of Four White Stallions and a few other songs that are on there at the back, but it's such a beautiful way to end an album. And even the ending of that song is the ending to an album. It's just perfect.
All right, great. Let's go to Brent. You had it about in the middle. So let's see what you had to say.
Yeah, I had it in the middle. It's funny you bring up the lyric, "The hop on my choo-choo." That's the part of the song I really don't like. But it's definitely a good song for sure. It's kind of formulaic, which to me I think is why I don't love it. It's actually a song I probably have skipped a lot just because it's such a basic song in my opinion. But I totally understand why you would really like it. The interesting experience I had with this song, I don't know if you guys have had the same. Girls I dated or just friends, my current wife, every girl or woman I've ever known that's heard the song has absolutely loved it. It seems almost like this is to some extent a song that was either written for women or something that women just really seem to like. And so I appreciate that because I don't know if there's another song I would say that about over the first 3 albums, but perhaps that's just my experience.
All right, cool.
It's kind of a gently mean song, interestingly. It's like,
yeah.
Anyway.
Chris, let's go to you, and then I'll give my
thought. No, I had it number 6. I kind of thought it would be higher going into it. I think, and ultimately, it's one of those things. I had this with a couple of songs in this record where I kind of think they've perfected this song live, and so sometimes like going back to the recorded version feels ever so slightly lesser. Even though I think it's an amazing. I'm never upset about hearing them close a show with it. I really love the part. Again, I really love the version with Bluff. The Dutch band. One of my absolute favorite sort of things of in the sort of Crow's catalog is the outro of that, where Adam is singing those additional lyrics as sort of counterpoint, like making the best of all that's left of me. I love that. And it's a beautiful. I mean, I love Mexico. I love going there. I love the song. I love also that this is, again, we talk about like sort of being a subtly mean song. Um, it's a miracle that it's a miracle that she's not living up in a tree. It's a reference to Monkey, right? It's a delayed dig at Courtney Cox, which I've always just sort of that he's just sort of she's a little better than the one that used to be with me. That other one from that other song that just I like that it's subtle. It's subtle.
It's funny too, because that would have been like 6 or 7 years ago at this point, and he's still singing about it.
It's a song about it's an album about memory.
I said if Taylor Swift wrote and released "Holiday in Spain" this year, they would give her 10 Grammys.
Yeah, that's probably
seriously
true.
Have Taylor Swift do this song from her perspective, same lyrics, same song. Put it out right now, 10 Grammys, greatest song she ever wrote.
Jeff, as an historian for the band, do you know why wasn't this song released as a single? To some extent,
I'm not the historian. I'm not at all. No, I don't know. I mean, again, I wonder to what degree, as others have sort of talked about, the record company gets involved in those sorts of things. So I don't know.
It became, and Brent, to your point, because of Bluff, it became basically a pseudo single in Japan, in all of Europe, and the Brits like to take their holiday in Spain, and right, the Spanish people like to be like that the song's written about them, and they sing the song, and the Dutch like it because Bluff sings on it. So yeah, I know that's one of the most popular songs that they play overseas, and it's become more popular, in the U.S. as they started playing it at the end of every concert, and I think, it's kind of catchy. I mean, Brent, to your point, I think you're both I think you're all right. Like Jeff, I actually think it's either the best or second best lyrics on the album, maybe third. Anyway, it's in the top 3 lyrics, and in some ways of being both literal and figurative, it kind of reminds me of Mrs. Potter's Lullaby a little bit. The lyrics, the way he's constructing the lyrics, and we all said that those were the best lyrics from This Desert Life. I also agree with you, Brent, that I had it number 6, partly because it is a bit of a simple song, and that maybe other people could have recorded it in ways that I think some of the songs I had in the top 5, they could not. But it's great. None of you talked about. I mean, I think he's being somewhat literal too about his partying and issues with alcohol too. And he was a big party guy, and I've seen him at least once at a concert where he was totally drunk. And I don't know how old he would have been at this time, maybe like 37 or something.
Yeah, late 30s.
And I think he was sometimes in maybe Mexico or somewhere with his girlfriend, and partying all night and like whatever happens, and waking up with alcohol. But no, fantastic song, and I had it number 6, and I do appreciate. Oh, one thing I do want to say, and I don't know, to your point, Chris, about I don't know if it's the way they play it live, but I couldn't find, because somebody either deleted or erased. I know the one that they did in the Sydney Opera House really showed this, and that is gone now. But one thing that they used to do live, and they kind of do it now, and what makes me love this song is that it's almost like every band member comes in sequentially, right?
Yeah.
Like it starts with just him, and then you have just the piano, and then right there, and then a little later Jim comes in, and then it ends with Bryson at the end. And then the Sydney Opera House version, they gave each band member their own spotlight when they came in.
Yeah.
And to me, I love that so much, where everybody was getting highlighted at the part that they came in, and it's it just almost made me cry.
Speaking of the ending, though, I would be remiss in not mentioning that it is one of my absolute favorite things. That at the end of the bridge where he says, "Catch a plane to Barcelona because the city's a drag." Anytime they play New York, he says, "Not this city." Now, other bands would do that everywhere.
Right.
They only do that in New York, and maybe they've done a couple, maybe Dublin. I think there's a couple of other places where they've done it, but it is not an every night thing where he's like, no, this city is great. So yeah, I as a native New Yorker, I appreciate that. Every time I hear him do it. So,
and I love Jeff. I guess you didn't say this in particular, but even just the last part of "Take a Holiday in Spain" and just like where it's almost like in a way it's a callback to Mr. Jones, right? When if everybody's gonna love me if I'm rock and roll star, but he knows that that's not really true, and then a little bit he has that here where like take a holiday, like if you take a holiday in Spain, leave your wings, like the holiday is going to solve everything, and of course it's not, and he'll probably just fly away to somebody new, and getting drunk and going on these vacations are not going to solve all of his girl problems, even if it does in the short term. So yeah, anyway, fantastic song. Yeah, and I probably would have had it maybe even anyway, the song has grown on me through the years. I always liked it, but it's even gone out.
It could have been my number one. I think it's a real masterpiece. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to. And it's, by the way, second of the 3 songs. Maybe I've talked about all of them now. Yes. So I don't want to say Beatles-esque, but if you wanted to create perfect pop songs, in my opinion, or I shouldn't say perfect, if you wanted to create like short little pop songs with no filler or whatever, to me, the only 3 he really did that was, I guess we didn't talk about the third yet, but Butterfly in Reverse, Holiday in Spain, and a third one coming up. Okay, so it's actually this one. So this song was, this is the one that I maybe either ruined, or I had the song like number 2 and then moved it to number 7. Some of you actually had it number 1 or 2. I thought this was the song that I was going to be the outlier, and it ends up everybody really likes this song, and we need to hear it more live. Why Should You Come When I Call? And I also think that this is Beatles-esque and a perfect pop song, and those trilogy of what he wanted to do. But let's go to the person who had it the highest, which is Chris had it number 1. I had it almost number 2, Chris. But anyway, please talk about, Chris, why you love this song. And you're muted.
Yeah, this is such a great fucking song. This is like, this was one of my, like, when I was in my 20s, this is one of my favorite songs. It's still, I honestly hadn't thought about this song as much recently. And when I heard it again, I was like, I actually going into this, I was like, I wonder, am I going to like this song again at, 41 as much as I did when I was 19, 20, 21? And the answer is yes, because this song is incredible. Like, it's so, the ending part, the outro, might be one of Adam's best recorded vocals. Like, the way he belts Why Should You Come When I Call is spectacular, and the band behind him is spectacular, and it's just an incredible peak. It's a truly incredible moment sort of on the record. I also, from a lyric, again, this is like a really incredible lyric when you break it down, right? Because, like I said, it's a song about booty calls. Okay, it's a song about booty calls. But it's a song about booty calls that's both incredibly joyous and incredibly sad at the same time. It's both a sort of a thing that's sort of triumphant, but also incredibly accusatory towards himself. Like, the idea that you could feel all of these things and express them in this song in one lyric is honestly incredible. Like, where he gets to, you could do better. Like, if you think about it, anyone's better than me is an incredibly sad thing to say in a song where then a minute later he is belting. It is so good. They've only played the song live, at least that are captured on setlist.fm, 15 times. All of them were in 2008 to 2010 when they had Augustana with them.
Yes.
Bless them. I was thankfully, I double checked. I was there for 3 of them because they did a bunch of it. They did a few times when they were in New York on that run, and I went to see all of the Traveling Circus and Medicine shows. Thank God. They need to bring, again, if every time, guys, if you're listening, which you're almost certainly not, but if you are, the next time you think to put Good Time in a set list, just look down the list and put Why Should You Come When I Call in there. I know it's got to be hard to sing. There's so many vocals. Find people from the opening band or something. I don't know. Get a big chorus out there. Round people up. Do this song because it will kill. It's so good. Number 1.
That's great. And I'm going to talk more. Yeah, Jeff's shocked by this that people love this song. I guess I'll just say, since I already said I did love it, and the reason I moved it from number 2 to 7 might be two things, I guess. Even though I love it, it's that, again, somebody else could have written this song, I think, and I don't want to take it away, but were some of the other songs I had
I don't
higher.
think they could.
Really?
Lyrically, I don't think anyone else
Okay.
could write that.
Yeah, you
and
might be right.
I don't think anyone else gets to there, maybe. Personally.
And even though I appreciate the good booty call song, I also I thought some of the other maybe deeper lyrics of some of the other songs that I had higher hit me a little more. But I agree with you, Chris, to make your point, and then I'll move to the next person. The only song that I think, how did you call his vocals at the end? It wasn't just a crescendo, but
The
however
climax. I mean, it's
the
a climax.
right? No pun intended, right? About the booty call. So the only song that I think rivals that is the end of St. Robinson's and a Cadillac Dream. That ending also, we can't do those high notes anymore. But those are the only two that I think his vocal performance at the end of the song matches. Let's go to. I'm leaving Jeff for last because I don't want to hear his negative Nelly. So let's go to the other two had it in the mid, which was Rob. You had it like about number 6, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, it's only number 6 by default. As I say, those top 5 are removable for me. But I 100% agree with Chris about the vocal performance of Adam, especially at the end. It's just it's hairs on the back of your neck, kind of good. Like, you know it's coming, and you're listening in your car, and the build is there, and it's excellent. And like you say, a song about a booty call shouldn't be that good and self-deprecating at the same time. It's just a wonderful song. I don't have much more to say on it than that. I just want to say how negative Jeff is.
Yeah. Chris, thank you. Before I go to Brent, but thank you for saying how that maybe also like Holiday in Spain, how it's like sneaky complex, right? That both of the lyrics, maybe this even more, it seems like it's simpler. You're right. It's more complex than it might first appear. So.
Yeah. Well, because I think that's the thing. I think, in the hands of a lesser band, this would be a very cringy song, and it would be real sad, honestly. And like in Adam Duritz, this is why my favorite band, right? Like, when there was a time in my life where that might happen, right? You may, I don't know. You're like, what do I think of myself, honestly? What do I think of this situation? Why should you come when I call? I don't know.
Brent, you had this. Oh, so sorry, Brent. I misunderstood you. You had this number 2. I remember I wrote you about this or I was hinting about it when you sent me your list. So, Brent, you were up with Chris saying this is one of the best songs on the album, and again, shocked me. So please talk about it.
I love this song. And Chris and I, we see totally eye to eye. I think the reasons you like it are the exact same reasons I like it. It was between 1 and 2 for me. I think it's conceptually just an incredibly interesting song to write, which is, why would someone hook up with me? It's just such an interesting idea. And I can't think of any other artist that does this type of self-deprecating / joyous song. From the bridge to the end, to me, is the best part of the album, both vocally and musically. I just love it. And if we want to get Vanessa Carlton involved, this would have been the song to do it. You have her say, "'Cause nothing makes me feel so good." You have the female vocals come in. I'm actually surprised, as much as they were having vocal artists come in on these songs, that they didn't try that, or maybe they did. But there's definitely an opportunity there. But yeah, Chris, basically, I'm just echoing you. Great song.
That's a good point, Brent. As good as his performance is, I don't think it would have been detracted by having another artist. And you're right. If there's any song, never heard that. If there's any song that Vanessa Carlton should have been on, it's this one. And that's one of the reasons Augustana, that's one of the reasons he wanted to play with other people, I think, to have them on the harmony with it. Jeff, let's go to you. You didn't have it. You had it number 10. Well, you had it below New Frontier, and we already talked about your feelings of that song. So.
Right, number 10. Wow. Okay, well, and I will say this, first of all, I really don't hate this song or dislike this song or have negative things to say about this song. I agree 100% that Adam's vocal performance at the end is incredible, and he's one of my favorite singers. And so, to me here, and I think the harmonies are so cool. Like this is that sort of Beach Boys harmony. This is what stands out so much about Hard Candy is now one of the things that I think where they really had developed this thing with the harmonies over all of the albums. And, it's really coming out on Desert Life, but here you have it, like on this album, the way that they used harmonies. And this song's an example of that, is so unique and interesting and stuff. So, for me, I felt like this was a song where what I don't like about it is that I just felt like the core of the song was a bit underdeveloped. It was another song where it's like if they had spent some more time working on just the core of the song, and I guess I mean like the melodies and the kind of the foundation of it, because it seems like this was a song where there was so much going on with the production. They kept adding and adding and adding and piling on instruments and harmonies and all this stuff. And it was cool. But to me, it's like, it just didn't quite get across the finish line. Like what they were trying to achieve with this song, to me, because I just am not super into the core of the song, is why it didn't make it. But I do appreciate it as one of the great production pieces on the album. I appreciate it as one of Adam's great vocal performances. And so it's not a song that for me, I'm going to be I ever connected to that much, I guess. And I guess that's why. But I certainly wouldn't diss anybody who would rank it highly, because I appreciate everything, all the comments about it. And also there is a lot to like about this song for sure. How about that?
Great.
That was like the nicest number 10 I've ever given.
Well, it's hard for you to relate with, when somebody's as good looking as you.
Oh, yeah,
that's right.
Right. Well, no, Jeff was.
He relates to the song about Nicole Kidman's dating life. Jeff and Nicole actually.
Yeah, right.
He actually, the rumors. He was actually really worried the tabloids were going to come out about that, and it's just they stayed under the radar. But he gets it,
Well, I was going to make a joke, Jeff. Right, as someone who's always been into committed relationships like yourself, and has a daughter that you don't want to subscribe to hookup culture. You're against the lyrics of this song.
No. It's not about that. But
no, some great points. So we're in the top 5, by the way, number 5, and then here's one that you'll appreciate, Jeff. So this is the one that I think you actually. I hated to do this, but you actually made me adjust one of mine indirectly. But I'm glad I did. I don't regret it.
Awesome.
Because the song that you had ranked very high, and then because sometimes I get to thinking, and there's a couple songs on this like. How do I want to separate the song from, am I sick of hearing it live, or do I like it as much as I did in the beginning? But really think about how the craft and just everything. I got to go back 25 years. So which leads us to number 4. So this is a song. This was actually Jeff's number 1, so he's going to know what I'm getting at. And well, 2 of us had it in the middle, and 2 of us had it pretty high, but Jeff's took it over the edge, which is Hard Candy. And I'll have him talk about it first. But I went back, and even though this is one of those songs that when they play live now, I'm like, okay, I've heard it a lot. But I go back, and I was just rereading the lyrics the other day, and it's so Counting Crows, these lyrics. And I thought it was a great way to kick off, and about the, anyway, Jeff, I'll let you go before I pinpoint any particular lyrics. But Jeff, why did you have this as your favorite song from Hard Candy?
My number 1 song, right. Okay, well, probably things that people will say. It's one of their obviously greatest up-tempo songs. I think maybe they're one of their all-time best. They're a band that I think is uncomfortable in 4th gear, like 1492 gear. Have You Seen Me Lately? Like that's not their comfort zone, but this is a great up-tempo, song for them. And the production's incredible. Bringing Matthew Sweet on, I think, was a stroke of genius. Not only for his ability to do what he does on the song, but also as a sort of nod to the incredible Girlfriend album, that if that album meant something to you, then having Matthew Sweet on this song means something to you. I think you hear songs like I was thinking of Daylight Fading and Rain King even as songs that would be in this same kind of vein.
No, I actually said that. I think it's not lyrically, but the song wise. I think it's a Rain King sequel in a way, and but different
really
and
feels like it. To me, this is the band at the height of their power, showing the world what they're capable of and what they are doing. The production is, just everything that they wanted to achieve on this album. The harmonies, everything that they wanted to achieve. But here's why, and I think I imagine that others will share, sort of those sentiments. But to me, why it's my number one song, and maybe this is exactly what I was talking about with the last song, was that for me, this song just means so much. You know, it has like a very personal connection to where I was in my life when this song came out and how I feel about it. So I'm just going to say that and then leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree because I also had it. I'm trying to think if we were the highest rank. Yeah, no. Let's go to Brent. Brent, you had it as your number 3. I had it as my number 5. So we'll go to you next.
Yeah, Jeff, you said you like New Frontier more than Why Should You Come When I Called, so I didn't think we'd be seeing eye to eye on anything, but apparently we do. This is one of 3 songs on the album that I would say I have no negative notes for. I think it fits perfectly as an opener. This album came out at the beginning of July. It's always really felt like a summer album to me, and that imagery in this song to me that kind of creates that summer feel. He says the word summer multiple times, but it's a great song. It's a great opener. To me, it really fits with the album. So I don't really have too much specific to say other than it's a good song. And Jeff, I'm back with you.
So
all right, cool. Yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, it's funny because you're absolutely right, I guess. And again, I'm looking at the lyrics as we talk here, but it's a summer song, but it's that nostalgic, right? In certain Sundays in November, it's looking back to and this song. What I like Adam the most, and this comes up again, I love him when he's both like nostalgic, melancholy, but still also positive, where he has like 5 different, optimism and pessimism all in the same. And he's even talked about that a little bit. I mean, Mr. Jones is even like that in a way. But yeah, and to your point, Brent, and kind of what I said it's really hard for me to fathom, but it's true that you could actually have a song called Hard Candy. And this song really does feel like it should be called Hard Candy. And as I said, I think it's a lemon drop hard candy, but that gives you that nostalgic feeling with a little bitter, but it's still sweet. So yeah, I had it in my top 5, and yeah, maybe we'll have to talk some other time about some of the actual lyrics. But I don't think there's one bad lyric in this song. So let's go to the 2 people that had it, high but not as high, which would be Chris, and then we'll go to Brent. You had it about number 8 in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I think I mentioned sort of there's like kind of a line of demarcation when I was doing my rankings, and this ended up being sort of that line in terms of like to Jeff's sort of like up or down, which I don't think is quite as strong there. But I definitely think this is a great song. Like I think everything above there is like really a terrific song. In fact, I was actually kind of surprised, and sometimes it's hard to know. I found the kind of middle top of this record a little bit hard to rank because a lot of these songs do sort of different things for me. And so there was some tension, difficulty of that mushy middle of really good songs where I was surprised this one came out kind of as low as it did, because I do think it's a really spectacular song. I think the lyrics are, as you discussed, are tremendous. On certain Sundays in November when the weather bothers me is like just a spectacular way to open an album. And also, I mean, as a New Yorker, the evenings on Long Island, yes, and then specifically it's about Jones Beach, and so which is the first place, interestingly, on this tour in 2003. It's the first place I saw the Crows play, so I'm pretty sure they played that night. Although they opened with Rain King. It's a truly, like, I think a great song. I think sometimes with these songs, with this record in particular, there are songs they have played a lot. And I think in certain ways they have perfected some of those songs. And I think listening to the recorded version of this, again, it's not so dramatically different. It's not like, oh man, they rearranged it, it's a better song. There were certain things like listening to this that felt like they've dialed it just in. And so in some ways, maybe going back to the recorded version felt like it lost a little something that it didn't, again, like they've only played, I heard, Hard Candy more than 15 times listening to shows on Nugs last summer, right? And they've played Why Should You Come When I Call 15 times ever, and most of those are not on tape. So I think that aspect of sort of listening and my relationship to not the songs, I try to always go back to sort of what's on the record, but the way I hear what's on the record relative to
Chris,
the accumulated knowledge.
Are you saying, which I think you are, that you prefer the recorded version that the live misses.
Oh, I prefer the live
You
of
prefer
Hard
the
Candy.
live? Okay, yeah, that's what I was
I
wondering.
think they've really, and it's very subtle, but I think there's certain things that they've really dialed in, like details that are just so. And in trying to like rate the recorded version, I feel like it lost a spot or two in there for me. Again, I'm not saying it's about just in the sort of difficulty of ranking these excellent songs. It's sort of it fell from. That's why I'm trying to describe, because I completely agree with Brent and Jeff in terms of how great the song is. Why did it end up at number 8? I think that's why, in my mind.
Do you and I know we still have to get to Rob. I always just look. I'm just going to mention some of these. I think they even do this better later, but there's nothing better with Crows. I think when the lyric that the lyrics the sound matches the imagery. I guess like I was thinking, and when you wake, the morning covers you with light, and somehow they with the space you can actually feel the light covering you. I don't know how they do it. And then I was just reading this part, right? You love that, right? It feels like the light is covering you. And then even the one, I'll just read this one verse. I just think it's, anyway, for the fan. You send your lover off to China and you wait for her to call. You put your girl up on the pedestal and then you wait for her to fall. I put my summers back in a letter and hide it from the world. By the way, I don't know how good these lyrics can be from with the Instagram age. And all the regrets you can't forget. So it's like a double rhyme there. Pressed upon a picture of an ordinary girl. So anyway,
and listen.
A little,
sorry, but I was just going to say, listen to when he's singing. Put your girl up on a pedestal and wait for her to fall. How the background vocals go from high to low behind him, stair stepping down behind him, and following that note. I mean, it's just the production on this is just absolutely brilliant. And they're subtle. You don't necessarily notice those things, but they're in the song and you're hearing them, and they're part of the experience of sort of why. I think the song is just so it's good.
And a little trivia, and I think it might. I forget if I don't think she. Now you can correct me, Chris, if it's the actress. I don't want to get into the dating thing, but the girl with the yellow hat that he mentions here in Hard Candy, you can see. So does it say about a picture? Okay, she wears a silly yellow hat, even though it was released 3 years prior. That picture of a girl in a yellow hat that he dated is featured in the All My Friends video. Go watch the All My Friends video, and it's mostly about the band hanging out, but they actually have a little part where they show that photo. And that's one of the photos among other. And I was like, Adam has a type. Because to me, he has a type, like a brunette, kind of all-American girl. And she kind of looks like that, too.
A silly yellow hat.
With a hat, yep. And so, Rob, we didn't get your opinion on Hard Candy, so I don't want to leave you out.
No, it's fine. I will keep it short and sweet. I did have it sort of middle of the deck. I think it's a perfect album opener. I think it's a great way to open an album. It's kind of like, we're back. Here it is. Beautiful lyrics, beautiful song structure. I think it's the second best pop song on the album. Like if you were going like sort of straight pop, like it sits in there. But I think the other one I've got higher because I think is personally a better song. But as a song, it's beautiful. Like you said, the lyrics, you could just find yourself getting lost in them. And it's just, a wonderful song.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so now we're to the top 3. And this is the last song of group 2. So that means that the top 2 songs kind of separated themselves from all the other ones. So this was the top, and this was one that kind of did the opposite for me. I think I might have had it at like 5 or 6, and in the end, I moved it to number 2, which kind of helped it lead this group. Did anybody? Seems like a lot of times I've been the highest ranking, and here we go again. I had it number 2. A couple of you had it number 4, and then the other 2 had it in the middle, and that's Goodnight L.A. One reason I had this so high is because I've talked about how, I don't know, like Hard Candy might have been one of my top 4 songs, and now it's not as much. A Holiday in Spain I appreciate more. Some of the songs were never in my top 5. But Goodnight L.A., I've always loved the song, and I still love it. And I'm still mad that they don't play it live because when they did play it, and it was a stripped-down version of it, right, Chris?
Mostly just Adam at the piano. Yeah, they played it full band a little bit. I was there at the Gramercy Theater in 2008 when they brought it. They kind of like brought back the full band version of it, and they had after having not played it for a while. And then I don't think after that it did not sort of stay in the rotation very much. I'm actually pulling it up right now. yeah, it's mostly been played as a like a
Segment,
solo
yeah.
piano thing, essentially opening uh Long December.
In the Long December, exactly. So I saw it a couple times on that, and the lyrics aren't as long. There's not as much. And here I go. If I'm going to count this as a piano ballad, even though I know the album version is not necessarily a piano ballad, I think I want to argue that this is my favorite, and I even like it more than Raining in Baltimore, which I know will upset Chris probably a little bit. But and this also has a thing about sunlight feeling warm on his face today, and I feel that sunlight warming his face, just like I did in Hard Candy. So I don't know. The lyrics simple about bringing down his love, but never can get enough. I don't know. By the way, he evokes a wire again when he talks about his heart on a wire. I always like those kind of callbacks.
Yep.
Let's go to someone else. I might have more to say, but let's go to someone else who also had it really high, which would be Jeff. Thank you for at least affirming my faith in you a little bit. You had it number 4. So
yeah, and again, all the ones that I rank so highly, and this song's one of my absolute favorites on the album. I think it has the second best lyrics on the album. I was today years old when I realized that this song and Goodnight Elizabeth share a song similar, the first word of the song title.
that's true.
Good Night LA and Good Night Elizabeth. I didn't realize that until I was writing my notes down today. Anyway, amazing performance from the band on this one. And I also think that line, that line that he works so many times at the end, what brings me down is love, because I can never get enough. What a devastating line, and how he works it over and over again. I think it's one of his most naked performances, and where he's just really, my God, his vocal performance is, I think, the best vocal performance on the album. So I think it's really incredible. Also, since we're deep dive geeks, I thought this would be the place to talk about the line "Station to Station," which is in here. And that's clearly a reference to the David Bowie album and song. So I don't know if people know about the David Bowie album Station to Station, or the song Station to Station by David Bowie, but it's a 1976 album by David Bowie. He was at the height of his fame, but also at the height of his cocaine addiction. He says he doesn't even remember making the album. And the title track, Station to Station, is he takes on this persona, a new persona, as Bowie did, that he was developing. And the persona is called the Thin White Duke. And he references it in this song. And so the Thin White Duke is this cocaine addicted rock star who looks really cool and, is really cool on the outside and super suave with the ladies. But inside, he's just completely hollow and empty and can't feel anything at all. And he talks about feeling like an alien. And one interpretation is he's like on tour, going from station to station to all the different shows, and just not, feeling like himself. So, the question, I think that the lyric is clearly a reference to that album. The question is like, how much does Adam actually feel personally connected to it, or how did he mean it? Because it's a song that's open to interpretation. But I just thought I would bring that in because it's kind of a little interesting lyric point, and I wonder what he's getting at there.
I think you're onto something there, Jeff, because if you connect that song to, say, 1492, right, that's definitely about a station to a Thin White Duke type sort of scenario there. And so, yeah, I think it's it is, it's interesting because I think some of the darker songs that relate to this time period don't show up until Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, right? 1492 and Los Angeles are pretty kind of, they're bummers, and so is On a Tuesday in Amsterdam. There's some real sad stuff, and so it's interesting that I think there's a sort of like leveling of the darkness in this record. This is not exactly an upbeat record, but I think there's some circling darkness that they don't let in, and it's kind of interesting to think about that in the sort of, because it's balanced, right? It's maybe because it's trying to keep a balance, it sort of keeps out the very dark stuff, maybe except Carriage or something. But I think that's that's a good call, Jeff.
And okay, good. We're going to go to Rob in a second. The only other thing I wanted to say about my take on it is that, well, we know that Adam's an insomniac, right? And he's talked about
Mm-hmm.
that a lot. And it really, yeah, I think he does a great job of capturing staying up all night in your bed. That's what I think one of the best songs that actually captures that. And also, it was shortly after this that he left LA. So to me, it has a couple of meanings because he's actually going to say goodnight, LA. I'm going to leave to Washington Square soon or whatever, and bring his piano. And it also is like goodnight, I think, in two ways. One, if he comes out from like a party night or a date and he just can't go to bed after that, or some nights that he just stays in, because we know from Miller's Angels, sometimes he just stays in all day and he still is up all night in his bed and until the morning comes. Rob, you also had it quite high, so let's talk to you.
Yeah, number 4 for me. I think this is my favorite example of the way that they use space in a song. I think there's just moments of this of pure just they let you sit in the song and just and feel it. It doesn't ever feel like it's overcrowded. It doesn't feel like they're trying to shoehorn anything in. It's just a beautiful, beautiful song. I think Adam's vocals in it are excellent. And I really appreciate the subtlety of the guitar through the song. You don't really feel it in there. It's just amazing song. Absolutely incredible.
Hey, thank you, Brent. We'll go to you. You and Chris had it, I think, about the same. You had it. What would that be? About 6.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it
Same.
6. I just want to give a shout out to Adam. We made it, 10 or 11 songs without talking about his inability to sleep. I think that's like a personal record when you're talking about Counting Crows songs. It's a really nice song. Rob, totally agree. The space is what I love about it as well. And Eric, you were talking earlier about that nice lyric from Hard Candy where the sun showers you with light. You get that kind of again here, right? The sunlight feels warm on my face today. So it almost feels like a companion piece there, but I don't have too much to add. It's just a really nice song.
Thank you. And Chris, what with you with this song?
Yeah, also I had it like at number 6 and love the song, and it's amazing. I know Eric, you always talk about how much you love Charlie. The organ on this song I think is really wonderful. I also, again, it's interesting. A lot of this record is that the connections to I think there's a lot of connections to the song and the questioning of various things and the sort of cycles maybe Adam is going through. The idea, I was thinking about this song in juxtaposition to Richard Manuel, right? If I could give all my love, I could, but I can also never get enough of love. That feeling like you're not giving your all, but also it's the only thing you want. And those sort of the way those feelings sort of come together. I think it's one of the reasons why the album works very much as a piece, because there's sort of there's some direct connections between the songs, but there's also, I think, again, kind of this emotional thread of really trying to understand your relationship to other people, your relationship to the wanting of other people and to love, giving of yourself and not giving of yourself, and what are you trying to do? Because I think there's the confusion of that and the expression of it throughout the record, I think, is one of the things that makes this record like such a beautiful, like a classic record.
No, that's great. Yeah, the two songs I was most curious about how they would. I guess everything else I kind of knew where they would lie, but "Goodnight L.A." and "Why Should You Come When I Call." Of course, "Why Should You Come When I Call" maybe more surprises, but those are the two songs because you don't really hear people talking about them as much. And those are the two I was most curious about how you would rank them, and all of you ranked them pretty high, just like myself.
Well, that's why I was saying that this album is, to me, underrated, because some of these songs, to me, and this is one of them, but sit alongside their very best material, but you don't hear them, play them live as often and stuff like that.
And right, people complain, they don't play Rating in Baltimore live, which is true. They don't really play this, but the same people should also be saying, I want to hear "Goodnight L.A." live, and they don't. To your point.
Well, I'm glad to see this song making it so high as well, because it's, even though I had it at number 4, but I really just think it's an absolutely incredible masterpiece.
which leaves us to our top two songs. And I'm not surprised about either of these. And both of these, as I said, they're quite a bit higher, right? Where that the ranking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 was almost kind of a tie in a lot of ways, just a couple points separating those. But these separate themselves to the top two. So number two, all of us had this in the top three, except for our friend Jeff Harkness. So, who somehow managed to fit 12 songs in the bottom seven. No, I'm just kidding. Up All Night is the song. So I will, let's start with who had it the highest, which would be Brent, who had this number one. So let's go with you, Brent.
I think the song is the most dynamic on the album. It's almost symphonic in nature. You've got multiple kind of stanzas of music where the style of music speeds up, it slows down. It's an interesting idea for a song. We know he's up all night. We already knew that. We've known that for years at this point, but it is something he likes to sing about. It does seem to really matter to him. I think he's saying it's too late to get high, which I always interpreted as maybe it's literally too late at night, or like he's feeling old, which there's a lot of lyricism here about time passing him by and looking back at the past. So to me, it's a really interesting song with a lot of dynamic quality to it, and that's why I have it number one.
Fantastic. Let's go to Rob. You had this number two. Yeah, Chris and I had it number three, and I'll explain why in a minute. But Rob, let's go to you. Who had it number two?
Yeah, I'm very much in the same boat as Brent there. It's such an incredible song. The way it feels like it's a 12-minute song, and they've compacted it into this sort of epic small package that is just it's immovable. Adam's vocals in this are one of his best performances for me. How he manages to just sort of, especially near the end, where he's just, and I can't even, like, goosebumps even talking about the song. It's just so full of beautiful moments. It starts slow and builds into this wonderful crescendo of just joy. And yeah, it's that juxtaposition again of, like, lyrically it's kind of like, oh, but song-wise it's like really jaunty and yeah, magical stuff.
Let's go to Chris Miggs. You and I both had it number three. I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, it's another really kind of spectacular song. Interestingly, it's back-to-back on the record with Why Should You Come When I Call. So interesting that they put, to both towards the end of the record, they put two of Adam's best vocal performances kind of like next to each other. Because I think, and again, the outro on this, the outro is really, he's just crushing it. The whole band is crushing it. It's another song that they haven't played live a lot, and they played a lot more, again, when they had Augustana with them and they could have, a bunch of people singing at once. And then this is, again, kind of an interesting song. You talk about, Brent talked about the idea, the line, it's too late to get high. And I took it, again, maybe now thinking about this, I hadn't really thought about this before. It's sort of, it's too late. I took it as it's too late to get high in the sense of it's too late to use that to solve your problems. Like, you are too old, not that you can't get high, and not that there's anything wrong with that so much as it's too late to just do that, right? I got stuff to do and I've got a life to live, and just going and getting high is not gonna cut it, right? There's other stuff here. And so, and that is something, again, maybe over the last years, like, really kind of hit me of just like, what are you what, there's again, that idea of there's important things to do, and we have to sort of make our choices in how we live our lives and how we enjoy ourselves, because again, if they have everything has an equal and opposite reaction, and sometimes you go, I could do this now and that might be fun, but like, I've got other stuff to do tomorrow and I gotta think about that. And maybe it's hitting them there, and because Adam does in some of the other songs on this record has that sort of Peter Pan quality, right? And he's thinking, maybe Peter Pan, maybe Peter Pan's gonna have to think about a couple of things. So yeah, I think it's an incredible song. They haven't played this since 2016, but again, mostly they've played this again with larger groups. So again, another one where if they're looking down that set list, maybe this is one to bring back.
And
Because
the
yeah,
Peter Pan thing started, I guess, with All My Friends to go with that, right? All your friends are getting married, and there's, either this song or Why Should You Come When I Call or both. He actually mentioned once in one interview or something, or I heard him say once that it was difficult to sing, and maybe
yeah.
that's why he brings in the other group with him.
I mean, because that's the thing, right? I mean, when we say these are his best vocal performances on record, he's hitting stuff there, and he's belting at a level that I assume is probably not the easiest to do on an every night basis. But that doesn't mean he can't do it a couple times, occasionally, guys.
Yep.
Bust it out, or find a different way to do it. I don't know. It's just such a great song.
Oh, I agree.
It hit me like one of the things I was curious about going into this was do they play the right songs from this record? I was kind of curious, and I think the answer for the most part is that they do. And the two exceptions here really are like, hey, they could play Goodnight LA. They played that in 2018, so it hasn't been forever. But Up All Night and Why Should You Come? Those both stick out as like, man, we had those. Like, you got to get those out,
And definitely Up All. See, that's funny because we all, most of us, except for me, Jeff, love Why Should You Come When I Call. But I never see like on Reddit or something people demanding. This one, I see people demanding. Why don't you play Up All Night? Clearly, the fans love it. I mean. Lyrically, or how Rob, was that you that talked about how it hits you, like, deeply? Yeah, you're nodding your head. In some ways, lyrically, this is clearly my favorite song. We obviously know what the number one song, but I lowered it, even though this is my favorite, I just had to lower it looking at the big picture, I guess, of what may be the best song crafting. Now let me just say a couple things about the lyrics and stuff. Is there nothing more Counting Crows than hearing that piano in the beginning and being like, is everybody happy now? Is everybody clear? Yeah. I mean, that's so Adam. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I actually think lyrically for the first 2/3 of this song, I would argue it's his top 3 lyrics of all his songs. Mrs. Potter I would put above maybe, and one song from a future album that we didn't get to yet. I love his songs that mixes really, again, I kind of said this about another song, that mixes like positivity, being optimistic, pessimistic, nostalgic, a little abstract, but also very literal. I love that part where, and you talked about maybe, Jeff, what you thought was maybe a little bit of misogyny, or in your case, a lot in American Girls that maybe that comes across more playful, and Why Should You Come When I Call? And, and I think he's perfect here about the, fix your hair just right, put on your jeans on tight, wear a dress so I can get it off real easy. That does not come across misogynistic at all, at least in my opinion. And you even hear Charlie in the back when you kind of feel that the dress is coming off. I don't know if you catch that little part. But it's more about, being in love and maybe, rekindling a romance, I think. And when it says, when he'd like to see your eyes, I can see the girl's eyes sparkling when he's talking, and he's feeling that optimism, because he opens up real wide the minute that they see each other. But then he has to throw in a little bit of this, hey, if you don't come through, I wouldn't wait for you. Right?
But also, I understand everyone goes disappearing, right?
Exactly.
It's not that you're a bad person. It's just that people do that.
Exactly. So you get a little bit of that romanticism with like this grounded. That's just how life is.
But I think the call out of like everyone happy, because I had a note and I hadn't hit it yet in this, the overall of the record, right? And it's like all through the record, it's like, are you happy about this or not? Because you're singing it this way, but if I read the words, I don't know. And I think the answer is that he doesn't know. He doesn't know if he's happy about this or not.
Right.
Maybe it seems pretty awesome sometimes, and other times it seems pretty sad. And sometimes the awesome moments are also the saddest moments. And so that sort of emotionally disorienting, like the music and the sort of the way the lyrics hit the music. Yeah. I think it's all of a piece on this record where you just go like, at the end you go, how is he doing? I'm not really sure. And I think he's going, I'm not really sure either. Is everybody happy now? Might be a question to himself,
Yeah.
And Eric, you were asking about, why should I come when I call? You don't hear people request that very much. That just feels almost like a fun song with kind of an easy topic, right? Up All Night to me just feels like a really important song. Yeah. Like it's complex. We could sit here and talk about the lyrics for a while, and I think that's why fans like it so much.
Yeah, I agree. And plus, musically, it's great. And by the way, Brent, another mention to Daylight, because it's just waiting for the daylight to come calling. So it goes back
That's
even
right.
the daylight fading. The only reason I moved this is the one that would maybe Holiday in Spain now. I would have thought that before, but I'm taking the two that could get me the most emotional. And I guess Goodnight LA, of course. But the only reason I dropped this down from number 1 to 3 is even though I like the It's Too Late to Get High and that last third, I don't think it's perfect. And I think it almost crescendos at the part about the disappearing into the greatest gray that covers over every day. To me, that kind of crescendo, and then the all night just kind of goes. I still, a 9 out of 10 for me, or 95 out of 100, but where I don't think it is perfect the whole way through. But anyway, that's my take. And we still have to, right? Who didn't talk about this song yet? Anybody?
Jeff.
Yeah, well, I had it ranked number 6, but not because I think it's belongs anywhere lower on the list. The songs on this album that I love with a capital L, and this could be number 1 on this album. It's so great. It's a beautiful song, gorgeously sung by Adam with amazing lyrics. Apparently, it was like 1 or 2 takes, so it just went down really quickly. I think everyone else's comments have been, said a lot of the great qualities. One thing I just wanted to, we kind of talked about the number of ballads on this album. And as Eric talked about, the very Adam opening with Adam on the piano, it's like there aren't a lot more of these songs coming from the band. Actually, there's On a Tuesday in Amsterdam and Possibility Days. But this is the last album that's full of ballads, like this, like August kind of was, and this one kind of is. And I always thought, even at the time, it was a brave move to put out an album with so many ballads on it, because, that's not necessarily what the audiences want or the record companies want. But to me, what's so great is like, here's another ballad, and they're like, it's another great ballad. It's like, man, this little guy could just turn out great ballad after great ballad after great ballad. And so I think also maybe that's why The One was so popular, got so popular, his version of The One, because it's another like Adam at the piano doing a ballad. You almost wish they would do more of these. And again, another one where you feel like, I think the reason the band doesn't do it is probably because there are too many high notes for Adam to hit. And so when he's in a crowd with other singers, he can maybe do it. But there are some songs he said he just can't do. And this is probably goes in that category. But another masterpiece, like I said, it went low on my list only because I think that's the other part of what makes an album great is like your own personal connection to it. Like that's the other missing piece. Like a band can put out an album, but then how do you respond to it as not just a fan, but as a listener or whatever, human being. And so these songs are so personal and we all connect to them for different reasons. But this is another 10 out of 10, song for me. And, it only went on the list because there are other songs that like connected to my life in some way more personally than even this one did. But this one did too, so I love it. I love it. Great song.
Okay, great. So that leaves us with the number, I think I said everything there. So that leaves us with the number 1 song, which maybe not a surprise, and we figured it out by now, would be Miami. Now,
nice.
Only 2 of us had that as the number 1, myself and Rob, and then looks like Chris had it, number 2, Jeff number 2, and Brent number 4. I mean, surprisingly, I don't have a lot to say about it. I guess I just, it's my, I guess, I don't even know if it's my favorite. I just think it's the best song. It's a very hard candy song. I think I've said before, I heard this live before they released it, and I thought, this is a powerful song. When this is, now I've heard it, they play it so much live, I don't need to hear it, but it talk about a crescendo that is kind of, that is powerful. And I've mentioned before, if you go back to the Pink Pop, where they played this to a group of tens of thousands, and everybody's jumping around to the end of Miami. I just think it's a real original, fantastic song with some very Adam lyrics. Brent, talk about you in Miami.
Yeah. So I had it 4th, which is outside of my 3 songs that I really, really, really liked. And I do have a little bit of critique or criticism for this, and I want to get y'all's feedback on this because I'm actually really curious how you feel about it. You get real nitpicky at this point, right? Keep in mind, I have this number 4 on one of my favorite albums, so I still really love the song. So a couple of the lyrics. Can I say, I wish that this weather would never leave? It just gets hard to believe that God sent this angel to watch over me. What do those two things connect? Like, can I say, I wish this weather would never leave? Has nothing to do with the prior sentence or the following sentence. What do y'all think about that lyric?
I think it's all the thing about the connection of anything in this song is that the song is about like pretty much just like a moment in time, right? And so it's like it's kind of capturing sort of all these fleeting feelings, um, and that like, and I think the weather aspect there is everything feels perfect. I'm in Miami, the sun is hitting me. I have this angel of a girlfriend or an angel of a something that has bestowed this girlfriend on me or whoever this is. But this is going to get fucked up, right? I'm too dumb to fuck, and it's like, I think it's the weather is just sort of, and put it this way, right? If Adam Duritz is the Rain King, that him wishing this weather would never leave is that's a real turnaround. It's like emotionally, I think. Yeah. I get it. It's sort of like a little disconnected, like within the context of the song, but it's never like taken me out of it, I guess.
Okay.
All right, great.
So I feel
please.
like just when he's explained the song live, because he often does this sort of intro to it live where he talks about waiting at the airport in Miami for this plane to land and thinking, this again, it's like what makes the song so great, I think, is when I heard him explain it, it's like, maybe, thank you, Adam. I always wondered why I love this song so much. And you explaining it makes it, like, it's so specific to him. And that's the same thing about Hard Candy. He's talking about the evenings on Long Island. It's like, I've never had an evening on Long Island, but somehow I still feel whatever he meant when he sang that and wrote that, I still like somehow connect it to my life and feel it somehow. And I think that this song is the same way. I like that line just because, again, he's standing at an airport waiting for a plane to land. And, metaphorically, there's just so much more going on, like this whole thing, this whole relationship is about to go in a whole different direction. And he sort of knows that. And he knows when this plane lands that it's all going to be over, that, the dream will end.
Okay.
And so to me, I just like that he's kind of setting the scene with the weather and all of that. And sort of the bittersweet part of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how we get this to number one, So the other one, real quickly.
Please,
Make a circle in the sand, make a halo with your hands. I'll make a place for you to land. That feels like the most important moment in the album to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also like, what the hell is he talking about? Like making a circle in the sand, I'll make a halo with your hand. Like, what is he talking about? I don't know. It's still a great song, so I'm just being very critical at this point.
Oh, that moment live, I don't know, when
it's great.
With the hand, yeah. I don't know. He's standing basically on an airport that's basically on a beach in Miami. So the circle is probably just sort of the
land, the plane, and he's circling it in his mind.
Okay.
Yeah. The halo is the angel, and I'll make a place. He's literally asking. It's a metaphorical landing too.
Yeah.
Like it's the landing, but it's also the landing.
Okay.
Sorry, I think he's waiting for the connection. I think he's waiting for that to be complete because he's talking about making a circle in the sand, making a halo with his hands. He's talking about bringing it all together and making the connection of. Sorry to jump in and.
Yeah, no, please.
This is my number one for many, many reasons, but the start of the song is, I guess, I think, I feel all right. So he's not sure where he is. He's not sure what he's doing. He's not sure where he's going, harking back to exactly what you said in the previous song. But this angel that is getting brought to him in this moment from this flight is making that connection, and he feels like he's getting completed. Again, that's just my read of that song and that moment, because especially after that moment, and then they do that absolutely incredible, and then the whole song just takes off and goes completely stratospheric, is just... So that's what my take on it is, that he's looking for that connection and waiting for that connection to be there with him and take that moment forward. And especially, I think the reason this song goes number one for me is because of the connection I have with it live. the when he does this song live, you see the whole band love this song. There is just something about them playing this song live that is, it's so special. It's my favorite Counting Crow song of everything they've done, lyrically, musically, and I think we're talking about their pop album. This is the perfect pop song. There is not a more perfect pop song that Counting Crows could do, and that's what this is for me.
So, Rob, in your mind, it's a real lost opportunity that this was not released as a single, right? You're talking about getting people to like Counting Crows that weren't traditionally fans, but still get exposed to a song that's very Counting Crows. Yeah, this was an opportunity for that.
Yeah, I think that opportunity is there, but I think probably because it's not released as a single, gives it more importance to Counting Crows fans as it exists. If you're a fan, you'll find it. If you want to find the band, you'll find this song anyway. Sorry, Brett, I know you're looking at it.
No,
this was a single though, right?
Kinda.
Well,
yeah.
We think maybe, but no video, no CD single, and I still want to be. I still want proof it was played on the radio anywhere.
I've heard it a few times on the radio, but there's allegedly a radio edit that's about 3.5 minutes long.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard that version of the song.
Yeah, no,
Interesting.
I agree.
I feel like I've listened to that once or twice in my life, and it's somewhere on a hard drive.
So, Chris, you had this not number one, you had it number
two. Number two also, yeah. I mean, and really, I mean, you could make I think you have to make a case for this at number one. But I had a statement to make, so that my number one was an easy call for me in that regard. But no, Miami's an amazing song. There's a beautiful, the acoustic versions, 2008, I think the best year for this song is 2008, when they started adding that middle section to it. And those first times when they were figuring that out, there's some incredible versions on the 2008 tour. But what they were doing, they played it almost every night, but they would alternate between an electric and acoustic version. And to Jeff's point, I mean, there's some beautiful acoustic versions that are a little bit less guitar heavy, kind of obviously, because they're not hanging on the electric guitars nearly as much. I think it's a masterpiece lyric that, like, again, it's a very classic Counting Crows in the sort of, we're taking this moment in time and we're just extrapolating it forward, back, and everywhere. Part of what I love about those 2008 versions, which they still include the middle part now, right? The like, if you knew everything, what would you do? But they were much longer versions of that. Right? I think there's a lot of great stuff in there. So much of this record is retrospective, right? I'm remembering things. This is an album about memory. Richard Manuel's death, the pictures in a drawer. This is a song that's about where he is at that moment and forward looking, right? He's like, I know I'm going to screw this up, but maybe let's go try and have some fun in New Orleans. Maybe that'll fix it. It won't. We all know. I think someone made the point earlier of like those things like in Mr. Jones or in Holiday in Spain, that shutting it down in New Orleans it's not going to solve these problems, but it might be real fun. And why not try, I guess. But it may be too late to get high. And that's where these songs, this album comes together so well.
Like a circle in the sand.
But it's also a good Belinda Carlisle song, notably. But there's an interesting thing when they do those versions in 2008, because now the song is retrospective. Now he's singing about a moment where he was thinking about the future and he knows what he did and he fucked up. And now he's remembering that moment where he was thinking about the future. And you have this sort of kind of fascinating emotional circle that happens in those versions. That is, I think it's kind of great and very classic Crows of the recrimination, right? Those versions are very recriminating towards Adam, right? He's basically saying like, this was my fault. I am an asshole and I destroyed something that I knew was meaningful to someone else. And man, if you've ever been in a position where you're the one leaving and the other, that is a heavy thing. And I've connected to that like you're making a decision that that other person it's like, you're going to devastate someone, but you have to do it for yourself. But like, it's a pretty sad thing to do. It's a classic song and it's a beautiful. And again, I think it's one it's pretty great on the record and it's only sort of improved and evolved over time as a
live. Also notably, the song they have played the most from this record. Very Holiday in Spain is very close. Setlist.fm has Miami at 648 and Holiday in Spain at 643. No song is in 150, within 150. Hard Candy and If I Could Give All My Love are next in the 400s. And then it tapers pretty quickly. There's a sort of a grouping of Goodnight LA, Black and Blue, American Girls, Good Time, Butterfly in Reverse that are all like 130 to 200. And then it really starts to taper with New Frontier, Up All Night, Carriage, Why Should You Come, who are barely been played. But really interesting that they know it's one of the best ones. And I think it's the right call. I think it doesn't bother me that they play it a lot because I think it's one of their classics.
Yeah, and the crescendo near the end, I think even someone who doesn't know Counting Crows, it's definitely a song that you could hear it for the first time and like it, I guess. And those are always good songs to play live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. Well, there we go. 3 hours about Hard Candy,
Yeah, right.
a album that I love. And I'm still Jeff. I'll never give you that like your favorite Counting Crows album, but you were the most critical, which I understand. You're critical of a lot of
my favorite
songs.
album, but also I think one that I'm critical of. But that also means that obviously the songs that I love so much. And how many bands put out an album with 7, 8, 9 incredible songs on them? No one, like even so to me, it's like, look, you just put out a piece of work here that has this many high quality songs, then I'm 100% all in. And I think the good stuff here is just,
and even his long interview recently. No, I guess I want to say I'll end with unless someone has some other ending comments that not only do I love this album, and to me it gives me hard candy about when Counting Crows were still in the zeitgeist, I guess, and still on the top of their game, even though I love them so much. And also, but people, not only did James Campion mention he loved this album, but I think the long interview that Adam did recently, I forget, but the last couple podcasts, I think the guests who are the hosts who might not know as much, definitely don't know or as big fans of the Crows as we are, have said, I think your album Hard Candy is unappreciated. So even, I guess, moderate Counting Crows fans, I guess, have come to the realization of this. So
yeah,
I thank everybody. So Brent, I just want to say thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure.
And Rob, thank you for coming from the UK and living now in Australia. And we'll have to get your if they tour Australia again, we'll have to get you on the field as our reporter. So